Hello there, people. How you doing, people? Let's just see if Mr. Pears decides to show face. I doubt it. The reason why I do these things is I just seen a wee minute ago in the chat there by the chap Flat Earth After Party, who seems to have a bit of a problem, stating, Dale, do something fucking constructive. Stop giving the trolls attention. Do something fucking constructive. Well, Dale's done nothing but be constructive and try to push forward and progress this whole thing. What the fuck have you done? Right? The reason that I face up to these people is because they're having an effect on people. They're actively making videos and hit pieces. So what would you suggest with the Flat Earth After Party? Sit back and turn the other cheek? Or call them for what they are, because they're lying, and show people exactly why they're lying, right? I don't know what your fucking problem is, but I think I'll start coming to Flat Earth After Party and shouting at you and telling you what you should and shouldn't do, right? Get a fucking grip yourself and wind your neck in. If you want something to say to me, come and say it to me, right? So, we are awaiting the sophist, fiveredpears, who makes videos, who has been involved in this again for 2 years. He makes slanderous, nonsensical, illogical, lying videos, tries to pass off mathematics as some sort of empirical proof, tries to pass off drawings as some sort of proof. In the previous video that he made, which I will play and go through, he says, you know, this is Dell, he's an angry man, he's this, that, or whatever the fuck he's saying, and saying that I get angry for 5 hours. Well, you know, passion, impatience, annoyance at this grating for so long, and these clowns continuing to go, you will get that reaction from me. But, you know, it has absolutely no sway. It's like saying the man in the street is screaming at you that the bus is coming down the road and it's going to hit you. Now, that man can scream at you with anger. He can stand there and talk like this and say, the bus is coming, it's going to hit you. And he can say, watch out, the fucking bus is coming, man. Right? What's important is what is being said. Right? Clowns like Mr. Pears want you to ignore what is being said, i.e. the bus is coming to hit you. And they want you to waste time focusing on the man. Why is he angry? Why is he saying it like that? Never mind what he's actually saying. Because people like Mr. Fiveredpears want the bus to hit you. Okay? So we will go through the video. Gav will be in shortly to share what his thoughts are on the Mr. Pears and his illogical jargon. We'll go through that video, and then we'll have a wee look at his video regarding water, because this is a man who ignores all practical reality in favour of drawings on a fucking piece of paper. Now, if anybody, you know, has missed it, I suggest that you watch his whole video on water being level and not conforming to the exterior of shapes, right? Because he always pushes this. Dell said water doesn't stick to cling to a ball. Dell also says that bodies of water upon Earth do not conform to the exterior of shapes. To suggest that a body of water upon its surface will display the shape under it, i.e. a sphere on its surface, is absolutely preposterous, against every possible observable test and experiment that anybody can do. He seems to think that me going outside and demonstrating how water behaves is ridiculous, but yet his drawings on a piece of paper are not. Now, I'll not spend too much time. We'll go through some of his videos, because I highly doubt that the sophist known as Fiveredpears will show up. Okay, he doesn't have a spine. He doesn't have any intellectual honesty. If he did, he would stop this, you know, us against them nonsense, this dichotomy, a false dichotomy, because the objective reality is not a choice, right? It is what it is. And if he wants to claim that he has some sort of intellect, he should know that. But I'm sure we will establish beyond any shadow of a doubt that Mr. Pears is not an intellectually honest person. Mr. Pears is a devious liar. Right? So, and again, he won't show up here. He will continue to make hit piece videos, talking shite. After this, he will be ignored. Anybody who sees this will know that he has been called. Therefore, his actions after that are of a coward. If he is a man and he wants to discuss and have progress and real understanding, he will come here and face it. But he won't. So, I'm just going to send my link here. Just bear with me. Come on, Mr. Pears, where are you? I'm colour-coded and everything. Look at my jumper, look at my hat, especially for you. Okay, so before we go on with that, I'll just have a wee look in chat and see what people are saying. Bear with me. And again, people, the whole purpose of me doing these things is to meet them head on. You know, you don't shy away from this. This is how you deal with sophists and liars, charlatans. You don't bury your head in the sand and act like they are not there, while they run around having free influence over people and never be questioned on it. Right? So this is not illogical, mindless fucking name calling and bickering. It is, you know, maybe people who are confused and misunderstand, like, you know, the after party chat. There is a purpose behind everything that I do, and it's not for me to get any self-satisfaction or gratification. It is purely tactical. It is to show that we are open to anybody, right? Now they can act like, oh, we're not showing up because you're just arrogant and ignorant and cut people off. No, that's not the case. That has been proved beyond any doubt. If you come in with manners and respect and are able as an adult to have intellectual discussion with people, then you will be treated the same. But when you bring me pish and nonsense, I'm going to throw it right back in your face. Okay? And again, I do not run about, you know, trying to instigate anything with anybody. These clowns have been prominent in doing this stuff from the beginning. They come to me, right? Your Mr. Pears character can be seen in many comment sections calling people flatards, dummies, right? He is divisive. We are the ones who are interested in the objective truth of our reality, open to discussion without any other agenda other than understanding the true reality that we are all sharing. So Mr. Pears and his fucking cronies can run about trying to paint any picture they like. It's never going to make it through. Now, that's a pattern that I see because I feel Mr. Pears and his cronies are one and the same group. Probably lecturers or teachers of some sort who were part of the same fraternities, right, and have invested interests in each other and keeping this nonsense lie going. So let's see if he fucking shows up. I know you're listening, Mr. Pears, and I know that your lackeys will be listening. What excuses are you going to have? We're here right now awaiting you. Don't say you're going to come back with discussion. Word it properly, phrase it properly. You're going to come back with your bias, with your hit piece. You're not open to discussion, sir. You're sitting there behind your screen showing your hands, right? Talking utter pish about people. You're a sophist. You have no excuse, son. Where are you? So, who have we got in chat? Hang on. Marshall, have we had any word from anyone?
Nothing emailed to, but I haven't found the available yet. So, if you want me to do that,
Sorry, say that again.
So I haven't asked. I haven't put out the broadcast for the mail address, but I'm receiving no mail at the moment. How do you want me to word this? This is a personal invitation to 5 Red Pears.
Yes, if Mr. Pears refuses to show up, the email address is nocurve@gmx.com. Mr. Pears, this is directed specifically at you. If you do not show up, then we will just go through a couple of your videos to highlight your nonsense. So it's up to you, son. You know, you claim you're open to discussion. Where are you? Don't act like, oh, he's busy. Oh, you're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, my man, with the rest of your cronies. You pinned a comment less than an hour ago, so we know you're there. So where are we? Stuart Mackenzie, these fuckers need to be called out. It's people like this that turn people away from the sub. Totally lost what that was saying there, but you're right. You know, these people do turn people away. It's not us who are asking the questions that are turning people away. It's these clowns who are hoping to affect people before they even get started. So, not to debunk flat Earth. No, I will defend the evidence that the Earth is a spheroid. Though Miles Davis, you know, is this Miles chap we've had before? You're not capable of defending anything. You're another sophist, confused person, talks crap. Andy Bordwick, how many miles to Mars? Don't know. I'm sure Mr. Pears can draw it on a piece of paper for us. Hope for truth. Hey Dale, how you doing? On a plane, how you doing? Rob Dizzle, how you doing? Leon H, how you doing? Jamie Brown, how you doing? Miles Davis, I hope Dale will be polite and respectful today. Dale's always polite and respectful unless he's met with ignorance and stupidity. Then Dale won't be polite and respectful. Don't see why I should be. Right? You get what you give. Tone Overdrive, how you doing? Hope for Truth, how you doing, man? Neo Omega, Isa Mahalski, nice one on the street interviews. Good to see other people getting out there and getting it done. Andy Brooks, I'll offer to help defend evidence that supports the globe too. Andy Brooks, you were here commenting for Mr. Pears earlier on. I'm sure you're in contact with him in some way. Go and get him. Go and get the man himself. No the lackeys. Go and get him. Miles, have you got proof of curvature yet? No, Miles won't have proof of any curvature because there is none. Barbara McGill, who is Mr. Pear, he's just another sophist, manipulative liar. That's who Mr. Pears is. Unless he comes here and shows us otherwise. Sam J, he always has been, Miles. You don't bring anything real to the table, though. No, certainly does not. Proof. No one can have proof. I do have evidence, though. Well, I can prove that water does not conform to the exterior of any shape. I can prove that beyond any shadow of a doubt. That is a fact, an undeniable, fundamental fact of reality, that liquids do not behave like that. So you can take your evidence and shove it right up your cake, okay? Footprints in the snow, my biscuit half eaten, my milk half drunk in the glass, presents under the tree. All these things could be compiled as evidence that Santa Claus is indeed real. No proof that Santa Claus is real, right? Raindrops, water in the vomit comet are evidence that water behaves in a certain way under those conditions. Proof that water does not behave like that here upon Earth can be measured and tested and observed and recreated by every single person alive. Proof, fact of reality. No drawings, cartoons count. It's like going to any, charlatan claim and them sitting there with a smug, condescending voice drawing wee pictures and trying to act like it passes off as proof. It's nonsense. Absolute childish, idiotic crap. These people are not kidding anybody else on, apart from themselves. They just don't realise it yet, but the penny will drop, because the pressure is on him. People like him and his cronies, they are feeling the pressure now. You even go to Mr. Pears' videos and you can see the amount of people who see through the sophistry. People are getting it. These clowns, I'm sure the penny will drop soon. Sorry, people, I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Tony, I got your offer, dude. I think Dad wants to leave the floor open to see if Mr. Pears turns up for a moment. I'll ask him in a second whether he wants to open up the platform for anybody else. I think this was anticipated that Mr. Pears would have the spine to come and confront. I was just saying, Dal, Tony Riley's offered to stand in if Mr. Pears doesn't show, because apparently he's got proof of a curvature.
All right, okay. So, I'll just establish again, fire will burn you. Fire will burn you. Fire will burn you. Makes no fucking difference in the manner in which it is said. It's what is said that's important, okay? John McCarroll, how you doing, bud? Miles Davis, he's already name-calling. Look, name-calling, right, it's an observation. A spade is a fucking spade, right? It's no mindless name-calling. It's an observation of what is, right? Don't detract from the subject. The subject is what shape is the earth we are upon. That's the objective question. Doesn't matter who I am, what my mannerisms are, what I look like, who I've been, who I'm going to be, what tattoos I have, what colour my hair is, what colour my eyes are, what colour's my skin. You morons can focus on that all you like. Rob Dizzo, doing Michael Brinkeroff, Tone Overdrive, Andy Brooks, Hope for Truth. Just by saying there is no proof is not going to make the actual evidence for globe earth vanish. You don't have any proof for a globe earth. In order for the globe earth to be real, you must have curvature. What, are you people really that fucking stupid? Right? Gav, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, Dale. How you doing, Dale? Hi, Marshall.
How are you doing, Gav?
Yeah, I'm good today, thanks.
Well, we're still waiting on Mr. Pears, apparently.
Oh, okay.
So, Gav, did you manage to have a wee look at some of Mr. Pears' work?
Yeah, just a bit of it. I've seen it about a year ago, and then I thought he'd kind of disappeared from the scene. But I'm glad to see he's back to have some of this discussion.
Yeah. So I'm going to give him, another 5-10 minutes. We'll always be open for him to come in. But failing him showing up in the next 5-10 minutes, I'll get up a couple of these videos. I'll probably ask you, if you don't mind, mate, just to screen share. I've not quite worked out solid enough yet how that works and what I need to hide in regards to the link and stuff. So if you can do that would be great. Yeah, so we'll be looking at just the video he made last night and his water one, where he offers nothing but drones. So just so we can get through and be fair on what he's trying to say and have an honest look at what he's trying to say.
Aye, let's look at his content.
Good man, good man. Perth, Australia, your opinion means fuck all, exactly. Opinions mean nothing. Dave Poole loved the Peppa Pig story, great explanation of the idiots. Well, that's exactly what it is. It is no different from me sitting there with a piece of paper, making wee scribbles and drawings, or colouring in, insisting that my condescending tone and my drawings are somehow sway or proof of something. It's just nonsense. Well, let's just cut to it then, Gav, and we'll get up, his videos.
All right, I'll call it up. You don't want to wait a minute for him still? I'll get the webpage up.
If people are willing to wait 5 minutes, we'll hang on 5 minutes, see if he appears.
I'll get the website up anyway.
No probs. Andy Brooks, I have yet to see Flat Earth advocate provide proof that an object the size of Earth with the same mass is incapable of attracting water to its surface. That is a claim, right? Wow. No, that is your claim. That is the globe claim. Now, telling me that you need a planet is just a fucking excuse. It is no different than saying your mind is too small to accept my flying spaghetti monster god, but my flying spaghetti monster god is real because I can produce an image of it, and it's up to you to debunk it. Don't talk utter crap, my man. Right? That is fucking lunacy. Right? If you want to tell me that at some unspecified scale the natural physics of liquid upon Earth starts to behave differently, that is your claim, no my claim. Burden of proof doesn't lie with me, lies with you and anybody else who wants to claim it. Now, if I go into nature and I show every object I can, bodies of water, and show that that is not how liquid behaves upon Earth, then I have done what I need to do. It's up to you to then prove differently. And telling me to get a paintbrush with paint and paint oceans onto a plastic surface is just preposterous. Right? We're talking about surface tension or adhesion here. We are talking about vast bodies of water. Huge difference. Huge difference. Melvin Coxgood, did everybody hear the latest NASA cobblers? No, I didn't. I was looking out for that as well and I missed it. So hopefully somebody can put me in on it. Rock Vibrations, how are you? Do you call everybody who asks questions and claims trolls? No, well, I think you'll find that the majority of the people involved in this are the ones who are asking the questions, and we've been told nothing but we are religious fanatics, zealots, Dunning-Kruger effects, stupid idiots, flatards, morons, simply for asking questions. So, Andy, take your nonsense and fuck right off, wee man. Right? You're not kidding anybody on here. Again, it's just your utter stupidity that blinds you from seeing what's actually happening. David Holdsworth, Andy, your smell rings a bell. Easy, mucker. Levelled out, he's gone pear-shaped. There's no convincing him. Miles, you have no proof of curvature. Bodies of water conform to the exterior of shapes. We aren't talking about opinions here, only objective truth. Exactly. This is what they fail to understand. They still refuse to accept that mathematics, and their drawings, it's purely a language. It proves absolutely nothing. Nothing, right? So when I make that claim about water and its behaviour, if Mr. Pears or anybody else wants to refute that, then they have to refute it with practical examples, as I have shown. But they can't produce practical examples because they know it's impossible. So they resort to sophistry. They resort to any way they can to try and sway people with an illogical argument and to detract from what the actual question is. Five Red Pears might be at work. Don't know. I think this is his work. And if he has got work, he might be a lecturer, a school teacher, which is a fucking travesty. It's something that should just not be happening. Morons like him should not be in charge of trying to educate minds, right? Because he's a fucking numpty, a clown, a pusher of nonsense. Well, if Mr. Pears is at work, Mr. Pears can arrange any other time and we will gladly have him. If Mr. Pears or anybody else would like a film discussion, then let's have it. Anybody at all. They act like they're the ones that are open to discussion, yet we continually put that out there, that we are open to it, and we get nothing back. Absolutely nothing. Avoidance and excuses. So who's kidding who on here? Have a look at it, people. Who are the ones that are stepping up to the mark, willing to have discussion, willing to have their minds changed, willing to look at any proof that's offered to us? That's us. That's what's happening right here, right now. Where are these clowns? Where are they? Five Red Pears twisted the mass of curvature beyond any reasonable point. Levelled out said that, yeah, because he's a sophist. He's going to manipulate and twist wherever he can. I would really prefer it if it was here right in front of me just now, and I would say it directly to him, So, Gav, are you ready to start playing?
Yeah, well, I've got the screen in front of me. Can you guys see it okay?
Yep.
I'm not sure about the sound, so I've had to unplug my headphones, but I'll just go here as best as I can. I'll just play it from the start, will I? And we'll just stop it. Yeah.
Yep.
Hello there, flat earth researchers and debunkers. Let's not forget word. It's me back up flat earth again, our favourite subject. Well, flat earthers are out there taking it to the next level. They're on the street, going up to members of the public and trying to use the Socratic method to make them question their assumption that the Earth is a sphere. And it's up.
I'll maybe just stop it there, just so that everybody understands Socrates and, you know, the influence he had on a lot of philosophy and a lot of other big questions. He's not somebody that you would necessarily snigger at. And they actually, if the history teaches us correctly, they actually hung him for the fact that he made people question their beliefs, you know. So, sorry, I thought I'd just...
Spearheaded from this channel, Beyond the Imaginary Curve, run by Dell, who hails from Paisley in Scotland. So he's a fellow countryman of mine. Well, let's just have a quick look at Dell. This is him yesterday talking about narcissists, sociopaths and psychopaths and such like.
The people who are claiming that they're real people, appeasing them. It's like Stockholm Syndrome. It's like the bully running the playground and people saying things like, oh, I like you, it'd be nice to meet you, oh, please don't focus on me, please, 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 please. Fuck them. Stand up and point at the bully and fucking laugh at the nonsensical, weak, insecure pish that they push. They are the minority, right? Stop acting like, oh, it's just all real nice, sympathetic people who are having a debate because they're confused. That's not the reality, right? You know in every aspect of your life that they're deliberately lying to you, propagandising, manipulating, all over the mainstream in every aspect of your life. That's deliberate. That is a plan that has been wheeled out.
Well, Puffy, someone's cross.
Pause, mate.
Right.
So here we have what he's done. This is his slanderous, attempt. He shows me a point of animation, displaying a bit of passion, and then condescends it with huffy, puffy, as if I'm in a huff or I'm a childish, huffy type of guy, and that's not the case. So he's misrepresenting here, and that is deliberate because he is trying to portray me in a certain light. That's cherry picked from 5 hours.
Absolutely, he's bringing it down to a personal and emotional level instead of talking about what you're saying. So,
and just to highlight that, when he says, "Oh, Dale says don't get emotional," but then gets emotional, again, it's barefaced lying, misrepresentation. That what I've always stated clearly is that you should not be influenced. In regards to the shape of the earth by people trying to sway you emotionally. People are emotional, people have emotional reactions. That I would never ever state something so stupid as don't be emotional. No, if somebody is trying to sway you using emotional manipulative tactics, that is a problem. That's what it means. So he can lie and misrepresent all he likes.
Well, he kind of goes on like this for about 5.5 hours about how he's not being emotional and he's not taking it personally. And he made a 43-minute rant about me last summer about how he doesn't take it personally and how he's not emotional. And
Pause.
I was already...
Where am I taking anything of this emotion personally? Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. So again, barefaced lies.
Thinking about maybe making a response to his street interviews and talking about why the things he says to people are misleading and wrong. When, lo and behold, out of the blue today, he's contacted me on one of the videos. Initially coming across as quite civil, asking me again to appear on camera, even though I've told him multiple times I have no desire to appear on camera. I don't want to meet people. I don't see why I have to justify that, and I don't see it means anything. So I just gave him a reasonably civil but frank response. And I also asked him to look at a challenge I set to flat earthers about a year ago. I don't know if he will do that. It was just basically a simple challenge to say if the earth is flat, you should be able to take a photograph across water. And my challenge was take a photograph over a stretch of water.
So again, he's invoking you should be able to take a photograph. So where is his proof that would be the case? Where is his consideration of atmospheric conditions, natural perspective, how our eyes work? He's just insisting. He is insisting from his mind, the image that he creates in his mind, that you should be able to see this without offering anything substantial to back that up.
Yep, absolutely nothing. I mean, there's no talk about perspective and how perspective works. So he's denying a whole part of, what we experience daily, and it's not factored into any of his material as far as I can see, apart from, I think he did one video where he tried to dumb it down.
Yeah. At least 20 miles over, and you can have the camera lens within 30 feet of the level of the water, and you can take a photograph of something within 30 feet of the level of water. It's a totally reasonable challenge, and if the earth is flat, it should be possible to do that. So I've asked him to do that, and so he comes back Bell style and starts getting...
According to him, it's possible to do that. Sorry, I missed what I was going to say there because it went on a wee bit. But sorry, just continue just now.
Childish and abusive. So I just basically told him what I thought of what he did yesterday. I listened to you listing all the attributes of a narcissistic, sociopathic, toxic personality. It was hilarious and a little disturbing. You were reading out a description of yourself. The irony was, of course, lost on. Maybe you should look back on some of your videos, have a look at your behaviour, and try to imagine how it looks to an outsider.
Pause. I do not give a fuck what I look like to an outsider. Again, he's invoking logical fallacies that, your tone, your mannerisms, how you look somehow, refutes or debunks or proves something, which is total nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. Just dragging it down to an emotional level again. Yeah.
He keeps making out that I'm a coward because I won't go on camera and I don't reveal my real name. I don't see what that's got to do with anything.
Pause. I'm not making out he's a coward because he won't go on camera or reveal his real name. That's totally fabricated. He is a coward because he claims that he's interested in science. He claims that he's interested in discussion and progress and that he understands science and the scientific method. So he's been continually called to have that discussion and he doesn't show. So therefore, he is a coward.
Nothing to do with my videos, what I look like, who I am, what my real name is, or what I do the rest of my life. It's nothing to do with it. It would add nothing to my...
Sorry?
Exactly. He's just saying it there.
Videos.
I don't think anybody here really cares what he does in his real life or what he looks like, but certainly content, what he's pushing, is something we're questioning.
Channel, he has regulars who don't show their face. One of the guys who does the street interviews, John, as far as I know, has never gone on camera. So we'll see if Del rises to this challenge. And I've actually said to him, if you can meet this challenge, I will appear on a discussion with you.
Pause. There we go to his overinflated sense of entitlement. The challenge is to you, sir. You are the one who wants to claim the claim that we were all born into, that claim is indeed real. So you, by representing that and claiming that to be true, the burden lies with you. You are the one who answers questions. Okay, sir? So when I say about water and its behaviour, if you want to refute that, you show the practical examples. You show how it is possible that vast oceans are stuck to a fucking sphere. That's your challenge.
Absolutely. And just, one question, whether, I don't know if he is in the teaching profession, but all I can say is that every parent out there should be asking the teacher what the hell it is they're teaching their children. Yeah. So,
I'd like to suggest here where this could be done for Del. There's a place here, southwest Scotland. You could get there quite easily from where he lives, called Port Patrick, and it's about maybe 23, 22 miles from Northern Ireland, depends where you're looking. Now, I would expect that at some points off the shore, when you go to higher ground, you might see some of the higher points in Ireland. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about standing within 30 feet of the level of the water and seeing something on the beach or a house or something you can prove is within 30 feet of the level of the water down there. Now, there's a nice little harbour that you could stand on down here if you wanted to do this. You should be able to go out there, stand there and take a photograph of the beach in Ireland. It's only about 22 miles away.
Pause. According to him and his insistence, you should be able to stand there and take a photograph, according to him.
Yep. So it's an image he wants, not curved water that he wants to demonstrate. Well, I'm still waiting on that curved water one.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many people with cameras. There's endless amounts of videos showing people zooming into the other side and showing the shoreline and buildings and people. I mean, is this guy living in a cave or what?
Maybe he can't Google properly. I don't know.
Well, listen to the next nonsense he comes up with here.
I mean, if it's a clear day, it isn't very clear here, but on a clear day, there's absolutely no reason why you can't take a photograph of something 20 miles away.
Pause. Again, another claim by him. There is no reason why on a clear day you shouldn't be able to take a photograph of something 20 miles away. Total disregard for, the environment, the moisture in the air, the different weather conditions, perspective. Again, all these things just skirted over. We won't even look at that. We'll just insist and demand that that's what you should do because in his mind, that's what he says.
Right, that's his association with what flat should be. And, he's denying any of the angular diffraction limits that nature puts on. He's denying any of the visual acuity that is necessary when we're looking at stuff. There's limits to the eyesight, and it's very well, how should I say, explained in perspective geometry, which unfortunately does not get taught anymore since about the 1700s. So, but we'll be clarifying that for people, I hope, very shortly.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Irish Sea forecast, it gives you an indication of the heights of the waves in the Irish Sea. And according to this, at the moment, the highest waves aren't even 1.5 meters, and that's what, about less than 5 feet. So I'm given at least a 50 feet clear.
Just to note that these little cartoon graphs there are parallel level graphs. There is no curvature on these graphs.
Yeah, I've not seen them either.
I wonder why.
Clearance of the waves. If the Earth is flat, you should be able to stand here and take a photograph of the beach in Ireland.
Says him.
If you can't, why not? You can use any camera you want, any zoom lens. You can use it. Is that a P900 they're always going on about? Anyway.
We get back to the same thing though there again, Dale, that he's concentrating on what goes outwards, away from you, and ignoring again the left to the right, which is one of their standard tactics.
Yeah, the usual sophist tactic. They want to cherry pick and have their cake and eat it, shifting the goalposts. They've quite clearly established that if you're going to invoke it straight in front of you, it has to be there left to right.
That's what a ball does. That's a sphere. Yeah, it's a 2-sphere mathematically, and a 3-ball is what they sell us.
Yeah.
If the Earth was flat, I would expect that there would be thousands of images online showing things that are completely impossible on a spherical Earth.
Yeah, pause. There are thousands of images every single day of reality and how flat it is. The horizon is always flat. The horizon is always eye level. Even an artist paints a flat level horizon. So to suggest that there is no images of the flat Earth anywhere is absolutely ridiculous. Every photograph that's ever been taken is on the level plane, you silly little man.
Absolutely. For perspective, everybody starts with a ground plane. So, as you say, all artists do it. And, you don't even need to invoke images. You just need to open your eyes, to see the flatness. So.
Yep.
Taking photographs of people on a beach 30, 40, 50 miles away. Then where are those images? There isn't one in existence that shows that I know of.
It's that's a limited discernment he's making there. Yeah, maybe we should send him some links. Yeah, or maybe he should download that app and take his own pictures. Huh?
Yeah, that's it.
If the Earth was flat, the internet would be flooded with thousands of pictures of things that are impossible on a spherical Earth.
Was
just talking about
views across great distances, showing that things are fully visible. I'll direct you, Mr. Pears, to the longest line of sight photographs. Go and check them out. Where the longest photograph line of sight taken was over 230 miles, with zero curvature present.
Yep, I've never seen any picture that displayed any curvature, and that couldn't be explained by the perspective that a given eye sees in a given situation.
Yeah.
So,
about the Chicago picture, we've all seen it taken at Grandmere State Park, and it shows Chicago behind the horizon, mind you, still obscured by the horizon. And supposedly you shouldn't be able to see that. Well,
if I remember correctly, the scientific answer to this was some kind of mirage.
Yeah.
At least that's what was sold on television.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see if he actually brings that argument or whether he uses a new one.
Yeah, and the horizon would change from day to day based on conditions. So he's talking through a hole in his arse yet again.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nobody's denying that there's atmospheric effects or, moisture in the air that causes, things to lens or look magnified or, nobody's denying that. But what doesn't ever crop up is, perspective.
Yeah.
Did I blow this? Did I wind it back? No, he's off. He's off to America now, I think. A wee ball animation. Oh, how nice.
Exactly. Drawings and fucking animations and CGI.
There's Chicago. That's the Sears Towers about there. Grandmere State Park, about 56 miles away. Now, if you go down to Grandmere State Park and look at the shore, there's what looks to me like a sand dune close to the lake. And if you do an elevation profile of this, you can see that the water goes from 574 feet above sea level right up to the sand dune, which reaches a height of 658 feet above sea level. So that means that the sand dune is at a height of 84 feet above the level of the lake, according to this. If you were standing on top of that sand dune, the horizon under normal atmospheric conditions would be about
what's normal atmospheric conditions?
Oh, good question.
What is normal atmospheric conditions according to this guy?
I'm not sure. The correct answer to his 12 miles is 11.22, by the way.
which means the distance from the horizon to Chicago would be 44 miles. Now, again, depending on conditions, that would mean you'd expect, I don't know, somewhere between about 1,100 and 1,300 feet to be obscured by the horizon.
1,337 feet.
Much less in certain conditions.
There we go. What conditions? What conditions for which eye in which given situation?
Yeah, he's very good at just throwing that in. Certain conditions, according to normal atmospheric conditions, certain conditions, other conditions. I mean, he doesn't ever give anything exact, and he just sweeps and makes whatever he wants up.
Generalizations, I think, and non sequitur.
Yeah.
Now, considering that Sears Tower is 1,800 feet, and there are a lot of high in Chicago, I would fully expect you would see Chicago all the time standing. Exactly how much of it you would see, you'd have to look into, but you would see some of it.
Well, we did look into it, and I'd be very good to hear, and I've certainly seen some of it. Lots of people saying that they see Chicago regularly, so if there's anybody listening to this, then feel free to confirm that or not, as the case may be.
There's loads of people see from France across to the UK, from Ireland to the UK, from the Isle of Man to the UK. These things are well known. This guy, I think, cherry picks stuff that gives him confirmation bias and ignores the rest.
Yep.
Now, why is there only one photograph showing this? Why aren't there thousands? Why haven't flat earthers gone here and reproduced this image? Why haven't they gone here and stood on the shore of the lake, right next to the water, and taken a photograph of Chicago? Where are the images? Or is it the truth that flat earthers have gone there and they couldn't see it and they didn't say a thing because they're liars? Is that getting closer to the truth?
Well, there's a barefaced statement if ever I heard one. Again, no talk about what perspective and what influence that has. No talk about the conditions. Just we're all liars because we didn't take a photo to show them.
Because
again, this idea that we have to bring photos to the table is what they'd like us to always concentrate on, and we shouldn't always concentrate on that shit. But let's see the curved water.
Because we've established that images and stuff like that do not constitute as conclusive proof of anything. They can be manipulated. As I say, as you just said, Gav, people like us want to focus on actual observable elements that we can all observe and test and play with in order to find out how it behaves. But, the sophists want to focus on things that are inconclusive so that they can then build a slant, and try and push that as some sort of truth.
Yep. So one of the biggest things is just trying to take the nature out of natural science, which is just a preposterous thing to want to do. Anyway, I'll let it roll.
Anyway, let's go back to Bell and the imaginary curve. I want to just talk a little bit about something that he says in a street interview. It's this thing that he keeps repeating, and I just want to talk about one thing now. I don't want to go through everything in one video that he does. It'll take too long, but I might make other videos. Depends on the response I get to this one, if it's worth it.
I'm sorry, English studies and politics. That's important. Do you understand science? Are you interested in science at all? I'm interested in science, yeah. Can I ask you, are you religious? No, it's correct. You can be more scientific. If I says to you that the core of science for me personally is natural science, which is observable, I guess that you can agree with that. I have all the fundamental science that should be that criteria in order for it to be relevant, as part of the natural world history. Yeah, I think science has got to be measurable and objective rather than subjective.
Yeah, and what that guy says is true. But let's think about this phrase that Del keeps using: measurable, testable, repeatable. What does it mean? What is it referring to? How is he using it? How is he using it to manipulate people? Now, also in other videos, he sometimes slips in the word scalable. He doesn't do it there, but he does it in other videos. I'm going to talk about that as well, because that's part of his deception.
It is part of the deception, but it's not yours, Del. It's theirs. So let me just roll this one on. This is going to get interesting.
Yep.
So I had to think about this. What is he getting at? Testable, measurable, repeatable, and all that. The way I see it is, what I think is going on is that there are two different issues here. The first issue is the criteria that have to be met in order for us to accept that there is evidence enough to accept that something is objectively real. Then there are the conditions that have to pertain in the world in order for science to be possible, now, those aren't really the same thing. In order for us to accept that something is real, there's only really one condition that has to be met, and that is that it's observed and can be observed independently by anyone. In order for science to be real, the condition that has to be met is that if someone can do an experiment, then if someone else repeats the experiment and does the same thing, it should get the same results. Now, if that didn't happen, then science probably wouldn't have got anywhere. Now, for some reason, we live in a universe that is amenable to scientific inquiry. We don't.
So I just when he brings up universe, then he's obviously talking about the general, scientific idea of space and everything, which is again a proposition that is denied here. Huh? So you can't invoke it again in your arguments if it's being denied by the people you're discussing with.
But what he's going to try and suggest here is the illogical, nonsensical stuff. You can observe things, and we can observe things, but when you don't have access to the cause, or you don't have anything tangible, you can't make claims about what that is and how it came to be or how it operates. You can only state that you've observed it.
Absolutely, and people need to. I mean, the difference between visibles and tangibles. Just to take these two words of Thomas Reid, people need to differentiate between these two things. An observable, visible figure and extension is not a tangible figure and extension.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference also in the way the geometry works.
Right, that's true. There's nothing in science that explains why science is possible. It just is. But that's not necessary in order to accept that something is real, though. Now, let me give you an example. Supposing I got up one day and there was a brick floating in the middle of my living room, and I phoned up Dell from beyond imaginary curve and said, Dell, there's a brick floating in the middle of my living room. Now, I don't think his immediate response would be, unless you can come round to my house and make a brick float in my living room, I'm not going to believe you. I think he'd probably say, okay, I'll come round and see. Now,
you mean like David Copperfield? Or I don't know. Sorry,
we'll get the point in a minute.
Every scientist in the world could come around to my house and see this, and it could be documented and it'd be accepted as real without anyone being able to repeat it or anyone even being able to explain it.
Stop.
Now, of course, we know.
Stop.
That's science. That's the new science, my man.
So, but that's fine. We could come round to your house and see the brick floating, right? But for somebody to then, say, oh, we can't repeat it, it's not real. No, you just can't claim to know why it's floating. You can't claim to know why it is behaving like that. It's a total nonsensical pish that he's just spewed here.
Absolutely, that's got to be one of his worst statements. I'll let him roll, huh?
The world doesn't work like that.
No, the world certainly doesn't work on floating bricks in space.
But we don't have to be able to repeat something to accept that it's real. Now, generally, the way we do it, the way the world works, and it does seem to work like this, is if you recreate the same physical conditions that gave rise to the phenomenon will happen again. And like I said, we don't really know why the world's like that, but it is like that. Now, there are lots of things that we study that are not reproducible on demand by human beings because we cannot recreate the physical conditions that give rise to them.
Stop. That's fine. But when you start making claims like water does conform to the exterior of spheres, and then you start invoking a mystical force to say that that's why it does so, and you're not offering any practical examples, you have wandered into the realms of religious hogwash, my man.
Absolutely.
Say, for example, the weather. We can't recreate weather. We can't recreate hurricanes. Other things like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, we can't recreate them.
Pause. Yeah, but you can observe them. So when you can't recreate them, you do not know the cause, because if you did know the cause and you had it mastered and down, you would be able to recreate it.
Yep.
Lots of things in geology, mountain ranges, we can't recreate them. There are lots of things we study that we can't recreate the conditions for. And what we do is we wait for nature to run for us examples of these phenomena that get close to as possible to us actually being able to regard them as experiments. So we watch lots and lots of hurricanes and study the conditions under which they arise, but we don't reproduce them ourselves. So what is he getting at?
Talking about real life earthly observations here again. He's wandering away trying to imply that what I'm saying constitutes the same as saying, oh, you can't recreate a mountain, therefore I mean, it's hurting my brain at how fucking stupid this is.
Yep, it's a non sequitur. It does not follow. It has no association to what's been said here, you know?
Yep.
I mean, if you want to look at, you know, if you want to demonstrate a physical law, then all you do is demonstrate a proportion or a ratio. You know, if you take Boyle's law, for example, that, you know, pressure increases when you decrease the volume by constant temperature, then, you know, that's all you have to do, you know, to demonstrate that, to show a physical law. But to demonstrate the apparent physical law of water conforming to a ball is not possible, and it's got fuck all to do with mountains.
The phenomenon of water sticking to the earth. Well, for a start, that situation of a spherical body with a large amount of liquid water on its surface is incredibly unlikely. The universe doesn't manage to create it very often, as far as we can tell.
Doesn't create it ever? Ever. The only place that exists is on your images and your drawings. It's on his mind and on his pieces of paper and he's drawn because he wishes and wants it to be true. You know, he's quite clearly stating it. It doesn't produce it very often. It doesn't produce it at all. There is nowhere in nature we can go and observe that behaviour. Nowhere.
Yeah, I like the swap of very. It doesn't happen very often to happen 0 times. Yeah, it's not observable anywhere in nature. Yeah, nature doesn't do zeros.
We only know one example, and you're standing on it. It's called the Earth.
Oh, one example.
The physical conditions.
Well, that's just like me saying, you know, oh, I can't show you God's mind, but because there only is one example and you're standing right in God's mind, therefore you just need to believe me. I can't show you because this is the only example there is.
Why on impossible to recreate? I don't think human beings could ever recreate.
Oh, that's a nice comment. I don't think we create it, yeah.
No, we'll stop making claims to know how things operate and what they are if you can't recreate it and show it. This guy's a confused mess. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, if nature can't create it, how the fuck are we going to do it?
Now, pouring water on a ball in a back garden like he does, and let's go back to his channel. He does this thing where he goes in his back garden and shows that water won't stick to ball, just as like you wouldn't expect it. I mean, who would expect that to happen?
It's not that I'm saying the water won't stick to the ball. I show it in a ball and I show it in every other aspect. The whole point is that the idea that a body of water has convexity to it, or that the body of water will conform and display a silhouette of the shape underneath upon its surface, is absolute lunacy.
And all I can say is that you demonstrating the absurdness of that claim has got to be one of the best videos on the internet. Anybody who hasn't seen it, go and do it.
I know it wouldn't be that if I was saying, well, fire burns paper, and then I go out and I show paper and I show fire and it burning it because it's out my back door. It somehow negates what the claim is.
There's no reason to imagine that it would happen.
There is a reason to imagine that it would happen because that is the claim. That is the claim.
Yep.
What have you done with it? Here it is.
Oh, you're claiming the Earth is a globe. You should be able to recreate it and observe it at any scale, any level. Okay? Now, so, I've done the golf ball. Okay? Right, here we have a body of water. Okay? We'll give it a wee bit of a
I think that's what happened. He takes it out and the water falls off, lo and behold. Now, he says that should be able to work at any scale. Why? I mean, he calls it, as he says, the universe should be scalable. Now, let's get this absolutely clear. For a start, the proper name for it is actually what's called scale invariance. Now, scale invariance is not something that's necessary in order to accept that something is real. If you observe a phenomenon, you don't have to be able to show that it can happen on larger and smaller scales to accept that it's real. It's not necessary for science to progress for there to be scalability. If someone can do an experiment, it's not necessary for other people to be able to not just reproduce the experiment, but to be reproduced at any scale. That's not necessary. And it's not even a thing that we observe in the universe. The universe, generally speaking, does not display scale invariance. Scale is a factor in how we understand the world. There are some examples of scale invariance, but generally speaking, the universe does not exhibit scale invariance. If you study
the ones that he wants,
and then you scale it up 100 times in 1,000.
Sorry, what was that, Dale? Sorry.
saying only when he wants to cherry pick what can be scalable and what shouldn't be. You know?
I think he needs to check maybe even if he's a mathematics freak, then he should maybe check some of the history of what scalability means, what ratio and scale actually mean. There's actually a whole body of work, especially during the from Scotsman, in fact, Wallace, Simpson, that were very adamant that the fact that things need to be scaled, because the difference is on a plane you can scale things any way you want. A circle will be scalable, triangles are scalable, but you see it doesn't work on a spherical ball. You don't have similar triangles, you only have congruent ones. So that's where they've got to cherry pick.
Exactly. And the scalability aspect, I can show bodies of water no conforming to shapes or displaying any of that behaviour on any scale, but they want me to believe their pictures, their image shows it that on that one scale it does do so, when we don't observe it anywhere else at all.
Yeah, well, I can scale lots of things, and using Euclidean constructions, I think the whole world's been built on scalable stuff, from Lego to cathedrals, so I don't exactly know where he's cherry picking this stuff from, but well, let him continue.
Yeah.
Times you would not expect it to behave exactly the same, but just 100 times bigger or 1,000 times bigger.
Unfortunately, water will. It doesn't matter what scale it goes to. That's the behaviour of it. It does not support itself in the middle. It's not jelly, right? It's not a solid substance like fucking jelly or souffle, right? It doesn't behave like that on any level or any scale. The only scale you can get it to is your image and saying a raindrop is round. That's it.
Teardrop shaped, you mean? It's not even fucking round. And I'm crying listening to this too. I'll let him roll on.
Scale invariance. We'll give you a really simple example. I mean, a grasshopper. You scale the grasshopper up to, say, the size of a dog, and you expected scale invariance. You would expect it to be able to jump over a skyscraper or something like this.
He's mutating grasshoppers into dogs jumping over skyscrapers. That's a nice image he's trying to plant in people's heads, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the fucking discussion.
No.
I'll let him roll.
Scales with some huge height. Now, it wouldn't work like that because things don't simplistically scale up down in that. There are lots of examples of it for different reasons that you don't get scalings. Take, for example, atomic physics. We know that on the sun.
Oh, we're going into micro space balls now.
The atomic level. The universe behaves totally differently than it does on the scale that we experience it.
So where is his practical examples of this subatomic level where things behave the way he's trying to suggest there? I
think they've just got some observable proof looking through diffraction slits and things like that, where they tend to know what's happening deep down below in the very small. But personally, I think they're talking the same shite and big.
Yeah.
You want me to roll it?
So it's not part of science to expect there to be scale invariance. It's not necessary for science. It's not.
I tell that to any constructor, that you can't take a scale drawing and go away and build a big fence or anything like that, That would be...
Or being able to show whatever it is they're claiming on a scale in order to get funding, Here is my new internal combustion engine. It's only a drawing and it's made of plastic, but trust me, it works. I don't fucking think so. You would have to show empirically that it does actually work, which means you would have to scale it, you'd have to model it, you'd have to build it and produce it to show that your claims and your findings do actually match reality.
Yep, that would be the basis of most mechanical engineering all around the world. Right?
Not necessary to accept that something's real. It doesn't mean anything. So all he's done here, even by the standards of his own criteria that he sets out, all he's done is prove that water doesn't stick to a ball in his back garden. There's absolutely no justification for extrapolating from that to saying that water can't stick to the earth. Now, does it prove...
Sorry, did you want me to stop?
I just stopped. He keeps going on about that sticking to the earth, The water does not conform to any exterior of any shape. Bodies of water do not behave like that. I mean, does anybody really deny that that's the reality they're living in?
Yep. I mean, everybody can go to their back garden and do the same, and that is...
And then he reverses it by saying, to suggest that it wouldn't behave any different is just not real or not fair or whatever it is he says. No, if you're the one that suggests it does behave differently at some unspecified scale, the burden of proof is on you.
Yep.
The water does stick to the earth, no, it doesn't. And let's get this clear. Even if you did get another sphere that was exactly the same size and mass as the Earth, and water didn't stick to it, it still wouldn't prove that water's not sticking to the Earth.
I don't know where he's going to get that other big ball from.
It would be peculiar and it would undermine your ability to do science, but it wouldn't prove that water's not sticking to the earth. To show water's sticking to the earth, all you've got to do is show there's water sticking to the earth, i.e. demonstrate that it's a sphere.
Water sticking, demonstrate it's a sphere to show that water sticks to the earth. I don't even understand what he's saying.
And the evidence that the earth is a sphere is completely overwhelming. I'm not going to go into I think I am going to do some more videos on this because it just seems like this has to be reinforced again.
If it was overwhelming and you had actual proof that the earth was a sphere, none of us would be here. So what are you trying to imply again, that we're stupid or something, Mr. Pears? You show your abundance, overwhelming evidence that the earth is a sphere. I've yet to see one.
Right.
But let's be clear about this. He has not justified this assumption at all. He has given zero justification for expecting there to be scale invariance. He's just asserted that it should be the case. He's given no argument.
That is the case. I showed clearly how liquid behaves, how it needs to be contained, how it does not conform to the exterior of shapes, because that is how liquid behaves upon Earth.
Yep, observable, reproducible, testable, measured by everybody. Everybody can do it, from the cup, from the tub, to the swimming pool, to the lakes. Yeah.
You better go and tell dam builders and people like that they're wrong, that the water is, indeed convex, and that we can just build smaller dams and pile the water up and tap it itself.
That'd be a good one, right?
Space save. Just knock a bit off and the water will fucking mound up and dope itself. I mean, fuck off, man, honestly.
And no evidence to expect it. So what he does here proves nothing about the Earth. All it does is prove that water doesn't stick to a ball in its back garden. And
it proves that water doesn't conform to the exterior of shapes. Red Pears, try and get your wording correct and represent things correctly.
I would think that would be deliberate, what he's trying to do there. But maybe he's just confused.
I think we all knew that would happen. I think none of us expect water to stick to a ball you can hold in your hand.
Well, don't claim it then. Don't claim that it's true.
Exactly. It's not us that's saying that.
Aye. You can't get away with calling this science if you're making claims and then can't show it. I mean, as I said, so every religious person out there, by rights, by Five Red Pears' logic and scientific mind, you don't have to have proof of any of the claims for your religions, right? You have every right to run about claiming that it is actually true and proof it, and science should accept it, according to Mr. Red Pears, because you don't have to show any proof. You can make any claim you like without having to show it, right? So, unicorn farts create the wind upon Earth. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Mr. Pears. Unicorn farts indeed create the wind that we experience upon Earth.
I think we're just about done.
Because the mass of the ball is a factor because of the dreaded word gravity.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I think one of the things I'm going to do is make a video about gravity, explaining the phenomenon of gravity and why.
Pause. This is these sophists that just don't grasp it. Explanations of your claims don't constitute as proof of your claims, right? I can explain how pink unicorns, through their imagination, weave reality into existence. The laws are created by younger unicorns. They are the ones who keep the persistence of the physical laws going. I mean, wow.
You can open up any good science fiction book. They do usually a good, story about how all these things work and all that, so.
We can go to any book and get an explanation of any fantasy we like, But unfortunately for this chap, he needs to realise that explanations don't mean anything without the practical example.
Yeah, it's the same old story that people think mathematics is a proof of something, which it can't never be, being a formal science based on definitions, And
I think this guy, that's maybe part of his problem. He's so deluded within himself and obviously views himself as a bit of a, intellect because he's got some mathematics behind him, when he really doesn't fucking understand that, his mathematics must have a practical example to match them, that must have the observation, actual tangible reality to back it up.
Yeah, and not just invoking the equivalence principle to explain away gravity. That's cheating. So, but I'll be interested in that video when it comes out, if it comes out.
I will just hammer him every time he does it.
Really clear that there is such a thing, and to deny the existence of it is bordering on being mentally demented.
Pause. Denying the natural physics of water that is observable, measurable, and testable by every single person alive is a blatant fucking admission of your mental illness, son. Right? You are mentally ill, mentally unstable, no fit, and I hope the fuck you ain't teaching kids. Right?
Well, we know these kind of people are, Dale, you know. That's the unfortunate reality that we need to change, huh?
Yeah.
And, I mean, again, somebody that denies his common sense yet employs it daily to survive is just being hypocritical if they can't see that, so...
Denying the existence of air. But anyway, I don't like to make videos too long, so I think I'll cut this one off here. And hopefully we'll be back soon with more discussions about why Dell's wrong.
Pause. So here we have the clear statement. Hopefully I will be back to have discussions. A discussion requires more than one person, unless you are schizophrenic. So is it an admission of his schizophrenia? The guy is making videos about me. He's claiming that he's going to be back for discussion. You offer him a hand. You offer him the opportunity for discussion with the very people who he's making the videos about, and he refuses. So he's not up for discussion. He's a sophist, charlatan, who has a bias, an agenda to push, and he will continue to do so. He's not honest. He's not intellectually honest or open to any discussion whatsoever. Is that video done, Gav?
Aye, that was the end of it, man. Sorry. Yep.
No, I'm just getting nicked to the toilet quickly. Leave you to deal with that.
Aye, no bother. Marshall, what's happening in the chat? Anything?
A bit of nonsense, really, dude. What we've got is a couple of people saying, Mr. Leadthorns is saying you don't understand mathematics. I thought you might enjoy that. And just some pretty lowbrow trollage, really. And I think the majority of the people that are watching can see straight through it. I'm letting them run for a minute with their childish, abusive comments, and then I'll start clearing house again. But, yeah,
take this opportunity to say hi to everybody and all the good guys out there listening and doing stuff and getting active, so good on y'all.
We've got a couple of people asking for links. Again, we'll wait for Darcy who wants to open the platform up. Miles seems fairly insistent. That's Ken, by the way, from the other night, Gav, you don't remember?
Yeah, Ken Miles, or Miles Ken, yep.
Yeah, and he didn't seem to be able to make his point the other night. I'm not so sure why he needs to come back and fail to make his point twice, but there we go. I see Eric's in the house as well. Hi, Eric.
We went silent here.
No, dude, I'm trying to balance out letting people in the chat see these trolls and, keeping it polite enough to make it good conversation for, the genuine people that are there.
Yeah.
I was just saying, Miles seems fairly insistent to get a second hearing. As I just stated, he failed to make his point the last time. I don't really see why he needs to come back. And I might have misspoken for Tony Riley. I think he was willing to come on and play devil's advocate as far as the curvature is concerned.
All right.
There's a couple of other people asking if the platform's going to be opened up, and I said I was waiting for you before I threw the link out again.
I just don't want to descend. I'd like to save the people stuff for the Saturday night. These ones that we do regarding certain topics, I would really like to try and stick to the topic. So it just depends. I mean, how are you feeling, Gav? Will we let Miles, one of these globe believers, come in and state their case? If you're up for it, I don't know if you're still there. He's away for the toilet, maybe. Well, I had planned on going through the next video of Mr. Pears, which is his absurd claim that water doesn't seek its level, and that water does, conform to the exterior of shapes, just to show people the sophistry yet again, because in this video he offers nothing but drawings. Oh, what a surprise. So I'll let Gav come back, see how he feels, what's going on in the chat. Have we got an influx of trolls, have we?
Yeah, we've got some pretty low-level trolls today, though, and I'm letting some of them run so the rest of the people can just get a clearer idea of it. But
yeah, well, people need to see this type of behaviour and see what we're up against. We quite clearly state we are open-minded, interested in real science, open for discussion with anybody as long as they can have a discussion, they are mannered and respectful, then they will be met with the same back. But part of the lesson for people and the realisation for people is this amount of attention that this subject is getting by these sock accounts, the tactics that they use, which I highlighted the other day, and then they come and they display it, no problem. So what are they saying? They're saying that they think you're too gullible, too stupid to realise what they are. That's up to you, Right, what have we got going on in chat anyway? Did I see a name coming up saying curved water? pandemonium. The people are switched on. Yeah, it seems to be that way, especially when I go to some of these videos like mp3, and I can see the abundance of, critical people in there who see through the sophistry. I see people commenting as such, and it's great to see. You put the pressure on these clowns at every chance you get, because they are feeling the pressure now. They're in panic mode. It's like all hands on deck. Let's try and attack any way we can. They have nothing, absolutely nothing, but focus on the man. And again, this has got nothing to do with me as a man, who I am in my subjective world. This is only about the objective reality that we all find ourselves in. You have some people who have agendas to keep and push that are lies. You have other people who are open and questioning and willing to discuss and discover the actual reality. Now that the latter is us, the agenda pushers, the ones who have something to defend and to deceive you with, are the ones who display the behaviours that we're witnessing right now. So, are you back yet, Gav?
Yeah, man. Just had to take a break.
Right. So I had planned on having a wee scan through mp3's water level video. Did you manage to have a wee look at it?
No, I haven't seen it, but we can just dive right into it. Hold on, I'll just
we
call it.
kind of skip through because he offers no practical examples anyway. He just does drawings on his piece of paper. But let's hear what he's got to say. Let everybody.
Just let me find it then. Which video was it? Do you know? Was it recent or is it?
Yeah, I think it was a while ago actually. Hang on, and I'll find it myself. I'll tell you the exact name of it. Just looking for it right now.
Oh, me too.
It's called Flat Earth, Water Finds a Level Debunked, How Water Curves and Sticks to a Sphere.
Okay. But it's a bit older, is it?
Well, I'll send you the link.
That'd be easier if you have it there immediately. Right?
Skype on, aye.
Post it in the group chat, or Skype. Aye.
Oh, just Skype, sorry.
There you are. All right, okay. Let me just get this into the browser and share my screen again.
Cool. Harry Growler, thank you very much, man. Eric Dubai, how are you doing? Sam J, Leon H, Super Motarded, Wolf of Truth, give us a laugh, Dale. Well, I would not want to enter into a logical fallacy, hello there.
The voice is on you after a while, doesn't it?
Yes, it's very condescending. It's very deliberate, to give this impression that he's an intellectually savvy, sound, stand-up chap, because they really think that people are so gullible that they will be swayed by that. That may be true in times gone by, but unfortunately for these clowns, they have to realise that it's not going to wash anymore. Okay, so they can talk condescending and calm all they fucking like. It's not going to produce curvature. It's not going to turn the Earth into a fucking nature-defying sphere pair. Right?
I'm good to roll. Can you see the screen?
Yep, go for it.
Hold on. Bring them up so you guys can hear it.
And it basically, I'm sure you've heard it, it goes something like this. Water always finds a level. Water's always flat. There's no level on a sphere. Water can't curve on a sphere. Or if you pour water on a ball, it just falls off. I mean, various versions of this thing that because water is flat, that the Earth must be flat. And the first thing to say is this doesn't even stand up as an argument, because all they're doing is observing that water is at least approximately flat on a small scale. And there's absolutely no justification for leaping to the conclusion that it must be flat on a large scale.
You got to love the way they come the argument, though, isn't it? I mean, you can show all this, contained level water, on, so many scales, and yet they jump it the other way, and they've yet to prove how it fucking starts to conform after a specific radius of a sphere,
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Exactly. This bit of water's flat, but it does eventually start curving. So, we're now dealing with a 50 pence piece shaped fucking Earth or whatever.
Right, we need to get away up into space to see it, that's all. Believe our images. I'll let it roll a bit. I'll let him get into it.
There's none. There's no intellectual justification for that claim at all. And what I'm going to do in this video is go through quite a few ideas to do with forces in water and talk about how it is that water comes to have a flat surface and how it is that water can curve. I'll be going over some things that I actually talked about in some videos I did about 7 months ago. So there'll be a little bit of repetition with those videos, but I'll be taking a different direction. And in those videos, I talked about buoyancy and gravity, and I also talked about pressure and force. And one thing I did in those videos was I fudged over a little bit the difference between pressure and force, because I didn't really feel it was necessary for that video to go into that. But I wanted to I want to be a bit more clear in this video and talk about what pressure is and what force is, and then go on to talk about how that helps us to understand the way that water behaves on the surface of the Earth. And also, I'll talk a little bit about why density alone doesn't explain anything. Right, so the first thing we'll talk about is pressure and force and what the differences between them. So suppose we've got a container like this. Not well drawn, isn't it?
That doesn't even look like a pig.
This is a box, and within the box, there's a fluid.
Pause.
The fluid
Pause. So,
is
pause.
gas.
Yeah, sorry, man, wasn't fast enough.
Right away, he states we're going to show how water curves around the ball and how it can behave like that. And then right away, the very first drawing is a square box container. Why are we not seeing a sphere here? He's straight away proving that the water must be contained. Doesn't even realise it. So.
Well, yeah, well, we've yet to ascertain whether he realises it or whether he's trying to confuse us.
Yeah.
Now, what you've got in a fluid is a substance where the atoms or the molecules are free to move around. They're not bound to each other. So they're free to move around on their own through the substance. And a gas or a liquid, a fluid, will exert a pressure on its surrounding.
What we're talking about here, son? Are we talking about gases, fluids? I mean, make your fucking mind up.
Right.
Against whatever's pushing against it. So if we've got a fluid inside this box, and we'll assume there are no other forces acting, there's no gravity, there's nothing else, there's just a fluid inside this box.
That's a fairly natural condition he's trying to setting up the virtual laboratory. Anyway.
It's pushing against all the surfaces, all 6 surfaces, pushing out against them. And we call this tendency for the gas to push out, or the fluid to push out, pressure. So the gas has something we call pressure, and that's pushing against all 6 surfaces.
Pause. So again, he's talking about pressure here. We've jumped through water to fucking air or whatever, but he's talking about pressure now. Note, people, he realises that he has to create a sealed box in order to create that pressure within. So
absolutely, that would be called Boyle's law. Yeah, and as I said it earlier on, all you have to do is demonstrate a proportion to show a natural physical law.
So we consider that surface on the bottom. I'll draw it again here. Okay. The fluid is exerting a pressure P onto this, which means it's pushing onto the surface with a force, which equals F. So what do we mean by, what's the difference between the pressure and the force? Well, you can think of the pressure as like a property of the fluid. It's something that's contained within the fluid. It's a property of the fluid. It's pushing out with a pressure. The force is how much it's pushing on that particular surface. So it's related to the area of the surface. We'll call it area A. So the pressures inside the gas pushing out on all the surfaces. The amount that's pushing on any one surface is the force that's pushing on that surface, which is related to the area. So basically, the bigger the surface, the more force that pressure is exerting, which leads us to, we can express this in 2 different ways. We can say that the pressure is the force over the area, and we can say that, or we could rearrange that and say the force equals the pressure times the area. Now in mathematics, we don't usually put times, we just usually write PA.
It's physics, by the way, he's talking, not mathematics.
That just means pressure times area. Now I will say in this video, I'm going to be using some mathematics and algebra like this, and I know that puts some people off, but I would ask you to stick with it because I will try and give you simple physical concepts that you can visualize to help you think about what this mathematics is telling you. So don't be put off by the maths, because I'll give you physical ideas to think about that you can visualize, like I said. So this is the first thing, is pressure and force and what the difference is between them. Next thing I'll talk about is...
Does he actually go anywhere in this video? Do you want me to skip ahead?
Look, whatever, he's so fucking boring. I think that's what his plan is to try and bewilder people. I mean, what the video's titled How Water Curves Around the Sphere and How It Behaves Like This. So far, we've got a flip-flop between gas and fluid. We're getting square boxes, showing that to create a pressure has to be some sort of contained unit. I mean, hopefully he gets somewhere, but I don't know how much people's attentions can stay on it.
I'll just let it roll and see if we can get to
density and mass. So suppose I've got an object, like a cube, it's not very well drawn, and it's got a volume.
Stick to colour them in. And
it's got a mass m. Now, the density is just defined as how much mass there is per unit volume. So density, now it's given the Greek letter rho, and it's defined as the mass divided by the volume. And again, if you want to, you could write that another way. You could say that the mass is the density times the volume, or mass equals rho v. Okay, so mass is the amount of matter there is in the whole thing. Density is how much matter there is in 1 unit per unit of volume. Okay. Just one mathematical thing I want to talk about, which is something called the volume of a prism, because I'll be using this idea. Now, a prism in mathematics is basically any solid object that's got what we call a cross-sectional area. Now, what that means is that if I cut this object somewhere along its length, that shape will be exactly the same shape as the shape that's at the end of it and at the bottom of it. Okay, we call it the cross-sectional area. So if we call that area A, the cross-sectional area A, and now this length here, if it's lying down, you can call it length. If it's standing up, we usually call it height. Now, I'm going to call it depth because that's going to relate to what we're talking about later. So we'll call it that the depth of the prism. And the volume is very simple. It's just the area times the depth. Right? So if you know what the cross-sectional area is and you know the depth, you just multiply them together and that'll give you the area of that prism. Right. Right, so covered pressure and force, covered density and mass, covered volume of a prism.
They've covered everything but shows a fucking practical example, you moron.
Absolutely.
There's my ad homs again, but fuck me, no wonder I lose my fucking patience with this stuff. Continue.
Globetrotters trying to do science. I've just seen comments in there from people that think that we're too stupid to understand that, you know?
Oh, right, aye.
So it just grates me that people actually think that we just came, you know, I just woke up one morning and thought, the globe's a lie, you know. No, every flat earther has looked at this seriously for fucking years, you know. So, you know, they need to stop that.
Just to highlight it again, remember the title of this chap's video is, trying to debunk water being level and trying to show that water can indeed conform to the exterior of a shape, right? And so far we're getting fucking square box drawings.
Just something very crucial to understand what's going on here. And it's something flat earthers just tell an awful lot of lies about. They claim that there's no such thing as gravity. Well, whatever you want to call it, there's a force.
Insistent.
Sorry?
There's a force. He's insisting there is a force.
Yeah, that is a mathematical construct again. Yeah, but I'm going to be diving deeper into that in a couple of videos from now. So
there's a device that you can use called the Newton balance. You can hang objects on it, and all it is like a spring. It's like a calibrated spring, and there'll be a little indicator that'll pull down. So supposing we're hanging on this Newton balance, a container with some water in it, like this. And I say it's 1 litre.
Again, people, be aware, he's showing, a container with water in it because it has to be contained or it'll just fucking flow over his fucking paper.
It'll just be dribbling all over his table.
1 litre of water is has a mass of approximately 1 kilogram.
What does he mean approximately? I think that's the definition of it.
And this will pull down with a force of 1 g newtons. So we multiply the mass by g because it comes from Newton's second law of motion, which is force equals mass times acceleration. Now we know if we drop something on the earth in a vacuum, it starts to accelerate with g.
Pause.
There must be
Pause. When we create something on Earth within a vacuum, we don't live in a fucking vacuum, right? We live in a pressurised, gaseous, air-filled fucking environment.
Absolutely. I just wish you'd get to the in calculus. That would be more interesting for me, at least.
Yeah.
Force acting on it, which is the mass times g, which is acceleration. So to get the force is just going to be the mass times g, and we measure it in newtons. Now this is what we call weight. Now in everyday language, when we talk about weight, we usually mean, what we really mean is mass, because we might say that we weigh so many kilograms or so many pounds. What we really mean to say is that's what our mass is. When you weigh yourself, what you're doing is you're using your weight to measure your mass. Now, the fact that this water can pull this Newton balance spring down means that there's a force. Okay? You can only stretch a spring with a force.
I'd just like to interject here. There's nothing wrong with the mathematics, right? It's all about the definition of what the mathematics is and what these, assumptions and axioms are, right? So anybody trying to either prove or disprove that it's somehow the mathematics that are at fault, they need to look at the definitions and what's actually being assumed as universal ideas and whether they contradict nature, right? So trying to find something in a mathematics that proves something or to disprove it is not what we're talking about here. We're looking at the definition of, how they create the mathematics, which is really just a doctrine of ratio and quantity, right? But anyway, sorry, I just had to say that because it's boring the shit out of me.
It's not possible any other way. This means that there is a force. It's not theoretical. It's not just the theory, as they like to say. This is the way the world is. There's a force pulling things towards the ground.
No, things do fall through different mediums at different accelerated rates, but you cannot equate that with gravity just because you change the definitions of it. So,
Now, if we do the same thing, but we have twice as much water, say 2 litres, would be a force 2F pulling down. This will weigh 2 kilograms, and the Newton balance will measure 2G newtons.
I'm not sure we're doing everybody a service here. So this, there are probably more and more people switching off just because they have to listen to this, You want me to skip ahead till he gets to water? Or does he do anything but draw pictures? Or?
He doesn't get anywhere. He doesn't show us any practical examples. He continues to draw pictures. So
of water in containers, right?
Aye, I just...
Maybe just skip it. I don't think I can handle it.
No.
I'll try here. Maybe it'll get better.
You've got a container. It's got a divider, but the water can flow at the bottom here. I suppose the water is at 2 different levels.
That's just no reality either, you stupid twat.
Did he actually say that?
Let's imagine or whatever. I mean, he's shown a square there with a dividing line that doesn't meet the bottom of the container. Now, and then he's saying, let's imagine that one side's, you'd have to put the line right to the bottom and be 2 separate containers and fill them to 2 different levels. Because if you fill it up with the water like that, the water will level off on both sides. I really don't know why I have to explain that to you, Mr. Pears.
I don't know either. It's just a thought experiment he's trying to provoke here. Yeah,
Yep.
You don't see that in nature.
Nope.
That's not natural science.
Nope.
So that's depth 1 and that's depth 2. And you've got air pressure.
I don't think there's any point in looking at that if we're starting from false assumptions, right? So, hold on. Just let me skip more equations. Blup, 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 blup. Sorry, I don't know if there's a point you really want to dive in or there's a time you want me to...
No, because the point is just to show people the nonsensical, illogical jargon that guys like this come out with. We can quite clearly see here he's drawing wee squares on a piece of paper and somehow trying to, pass it off as intellectualism or some sort of scientific proof or a proof of a claim. I mean, it's bizarre. It's fucking bizarre.
But unfortunately, that's the reality. People are caught up in these explanations. They take them for real. They look at the maths. They don't see any problem in the maths because they don't look at the assumptions that are being made. Yep. And then, off they go. So, I'm perfectly willing to accept that he's just been deluded like all of us, unless he continues to propagate, nonsense to our children. And in which case, it is a criminal act. Huh?
Light things float and dense things sink. Okay? Now, I've touched this in another video. So say you've got 2 lines in water, right? And an object there, right? And this is at depth D1 and this is at depth D2. There's a force pushing down on the top of the object, okay? Say we call it force 1. There's a force pushing up the way, force 2. Now, the force pushing down will be determined by the pressure at this depth D1. So say you've got pressure 1. So it'll be determined by whatever the pressure is along this horizontal line in the water. The force pushing up will be determined by the pressure of the water at this depth. Now, because you've got a pressure gradient, force 2 is very slightly bigger than force 1. Now, if this object has the same density as water, then it has just enough weight to make up for the difference between F1 and F2. So F1 plus the weight of the object will equal F2, and the thing will just sit in water. And that's why fish can swim, because they're basically the same density as water. If this thing is less dense than water, then it doesn't have enough weight to make up for the difference between this force and this force. This force wins and the thing pushes up. If this thing is more dense than water, then it has enough weight to win and overcome the upward force and it starts to move down. And again, you can only have this thing do what kind of people... Anyway.
Anyway.
Get back to the topic, you madman. The title of your video is, water's no level and Disney is conform to spheres. I mean,
yeah, I'm not finding it anywhere in here. I'm not seeing any practical demonstrations or even anything that would convince me that he's got a point. Well, that's what drawing's that?
The force. I've not drawn it very well, I don't think. Okay. So we consider, say, like a column of water from here to here.
A column of water.
The depth, the pressure at the bottom of this column would have to be equal to the pressure at the bottom of this column, which means the depth of this column would have to be the same as the depth of this column. Okay, so the water would have to form this kind of shape here. You get the forces acting like this. All right. Now that's just to help us to understand.
Hold on, he's coming. I see he's got a ball here now.
oh yeah,
The surface of the water will follow it like this. So any local area, the local surface of the water will be at right angles to the local direction of the force.
That's that wonderful redefinition they do of what level means, right? Where they make it the shape of, the path that water takes, due to this magical gravity with respect to a frame of reference of the fixed stars, just a redefinition of that level is actually a property of water and not a fucking property of gravity, So it's actually a simple con,
But on a larger scale, we can see that the water will have to curve because the force is changing direction very gradually. So if you had a sphere, it's not very well drawn, but this must be a sphere.
looks like a circle.
And you had the force was pushing towards the centre of the sphere.
This whole thing is again a two-dimensional, representation, of stuff. Aye, and if.
Way around, then the water would have to just follow right round like this.
Oh well, then it must be correct then.
It's supposed to be a circle, but you get the idea.
But that is, suppose, if I submerged a ball into water, that's what would happen. The pressure would be all the way around the ball. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about, the displaying the shape on the top of the water surface.
The local surface would be at right angles to the direction of the force. And this is how water can curve, and this is how water can stick to a ball. But the ball has to be huge to have enough gravitational force to do this. Only something as big as the Earth could do that.
Ah, there's that scale again that just magically appears at the size of the Earth.
Another thing that they keep saying is, what if it's spinning? No, it'd be spinning, the water would fly. The Earth is rotating once a day. It's hardly rotating, it's a painfully slow rotation.
1,000 miles per hour is not fucking slow.
Absolutely. And speed is defined as the distance travelled over the duration. So, yeah, let's see that measurement in space, please.
The amount, and I've done this in other videos, the amount that the rotation of the Earth would affect us is negligible because it's so slow. So that's really a factor in this. You don't even have to worry about this for this video.
Are you convinced yet, Del, that it's a ball? And
the drawings and the insisting and, the lack of practical example is absolutely swaying me to believe that it is indeed a sphere.
Yep. Well, it did for a long time, I'll have to admit it myself. I was duped and brainwashed, and I believed this shit. I studied it, so I do understand how difficult it is for people to shed it. But all I can say to any academics watching this is please look at the definitions of what you're talking about and find the contradictions to natural science. And when you do that, you'll realise where we went wrong.
Yeah.
So this is why water curves, though. Okay? It's not really following the curvature of the Earth as such. What it's doing is it's following the change in direction of the gravitational force. Or it's following the contours of the gravitational field. That's what it's really following. It's indirectly following the curvature of the Earth, because the curvature of the Earth determines the way that the gravitational force works.
There's a nice assumption of the curvature of the Earth. I think you failed to prove that, though, in the other videos. But you'll build one on top of the other, an argument on top of an argument, all based on sand.
Yeah.
But it's the actual force that's making the water curve. So it's really following the curvature of the gravitational field. Another thing just to mention briefly before I finish is this thing about density again. Supposedly, in this theory of density, all of this could be, everything that we attribute to gravity can be understood in terms of density. Denser things move down. So if something dense things move down, light things move up, apparently, just according to some natural physics of the world that they never explain.
What did he say there? Light. Yes, things behave. Light things do go up and dense things do go down. I don't quite understand why he wants to deny that observable reality. Hold on, I just want to hear what he actually said there.
Move up, apparently, just according to some natural physics of the world that they never explain.
Just some natural physics of the world that flat earthers never explain. Yeah. Okay.
Well, one thing to say about this is no flat earther can ever explain what is special about the downward direction in this density theory.
Well, that would be you, yourself, and the liquid contained in your body. You know, if I hang him upside down by his feet, I'm sure he'll go red in the face like everybody else.
They can't. Now, since they can't actually explain why dense things move down, they've got no intellectual defence against arguing that the direction that dense things move in could change. I could just as easily say, well, I've got a density theory that denser things always move towards the centre of a sphere. I mean, if this density thing could explain the things that we explain with gravity, which it can't anyway, even if it could.
Show us one practical example of things falling towards the centre of a sphere.
Well, it didn't come, Dale, so I don't know who you're talking to. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry, man, he's fucking boring me.
Aye, let's lock it on the head. But, you know, maybe just a call out.
Yeah,
I will play 2 minutes, will we?
Let's see what he says.
I mean, there's no objection they could make to that, unless they can give you a proper, rigorous scientific explanation of why dense things move down in this theory. They can't give you any. They can't object to you.
I also don't like that argument. You know, I mean, bringing up that if we don't prove, you know, mathematically and physically, we don't come up with alternative theories. You know, trying to put the burden of proof back on us, and scientists, you know, from the common man is just another, you know, illogical fallacy. You know, the burden of proof remains on them with their claim of curvy water in bendy space-time. So
claiming the direction they move in could change, and in fact could always be pushing towards the centre of the sphere. They've no defence against that argument at all.
Buzz,
So
where is the centre of your fucking sphere? As far as I'm aware, when you remove the oceans, it's not a sphere. It's a potato-shaped fucking rock. So where is the centre of that potato-shaped rock?
It needs to be in the middle for their mass to work. But yeah, what's the middle of a broken potato, right?
Can be applied to spherical Earth anyway. Even if it was a proper theory, which it isn't, it doesn't even explain anything, but if it did, it could be applied to a sphere anyway, and they've got nothing to say against it. So I think that's about as much as I want to say. That's a bit longer than I would usually go on about. So I'll just
cut it here, will I?
Let's just see a final conclusion.
Gone through why water is flat, locally flat, and how it curves, and how buoyancy works, how all of it can only be understood in terms of being a force. And this is
so water can only be locally flat, but it must curve. So again, you know, he's invoking that we live on a 50p fucking piece. It has to be curving in every direction. There you go, mate.
Crucial thing here is this. What I'm representing in this diagram here, which is you could physically do for yourself.
Yeah, we contain water.
Force pulling things down because it stretches a spring. Weight stretches a spring, and the amount that it stretches it is proportional to the mass. Not density, not anything else, just how much there is of something.
Well.
Hello there, and welcome.
No, can't.
Not again.
Sorry.
If I ever want to torture anybody, I'm going to fucking tie them up, sellotape their eyes open, and make them watch that fucking nonsense.
Absolutely. But maybe it's, you know, in a way it's actually quite entertaining, you know. I mean, to a point at least. But if there's any other videos that people maybe suggest we should dissect, then, you know, I'm open to hearing suggestions from other people, you know, just because I think it does help, you know, when we talk about it, to make people, you know, especially new folk coming to it, you know, to see through this stuff. So
yeah, it's sent me into a funny headspace of total boredom and fucking I know, I swear a lot. I'm sorry that words hurt, offend people. Somebody was saying that in the chat. So, what did we achieve here? What did we gain? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You've got a character drawing wee pictures on his piece of paper, showing you that in order to create pressure, you need a sealed unit. In order to hold water, you need some sort of container. And then flips it by saying, you know, oh, look at my drawings, therefore water curves. After showing you that it doesn't curve. I mean, am I picking this up right? Am I away? Are you there?
Yeah, we're here, Dale. Just all a bit stunned from Mr. Pears' droning.
But
I particularly like the fish have the same density as water. I think that's quite fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I'm going out for some reason. Or it crashed on me.
I mean, that I'm feeling it is exactly what these sophists, set out today. It's to fucking bore you to tears, to make you give up under the torturous conditions and say, do you know what, fuck it, I'm not even going to bother with it, carry on. Are we getting interferences out? Can you hear me? Is everybody still there?
I'm still seeing full stream here. Gav's been dropped out once. Don't know. Gav, are you still live?
Yeah, I'm back. My browser crashed. It must have been the video we were watching. I don't know.
You bored the video? The computer was bored. The computer even knows that you have to contain water and it's always going to be level. I mean,
right.
So I don't really know what else. I mean, this is the difference between mathematics being the formal science and a language and people like this guy, fiveredpears, who can sit and garb on about for hours with drawings and fucking diagrams and pictures. When you come in natural science, we look for practical examples of all claims, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a practical example of how these things are possible. As I say, I can get an explanation of how it's possible that Superman can fly, and how he can go to fucking Krypton, and I can get an explanation of what Krypton's made of. I mean, we're trying to show the separation between what is actual science, right, and what is religious crap. This guy is a priest, a disciple of the globe religion, probably a trained sophist, some chubby wee fat bearded guy, I can picture him, some insecure dirtoid that is out there to push crap on people, right? If I say to you, my flying spaghetti monster is true and it runs everything, and then I start showing you drawings, insisting that it's true, you're going to laugh at me. This chap is no fucking different to that. He's got no credibility whatsoever, none. I don't even know why people are influenced by anything this crap this chap has to say.
Absolutely. We should be laughing at it for the absurdity it is. Yeah. Should just be pointed out. The emperor has no clothes. Yeah. The children know it. We get brainwashed into not knowing it, and we all need to wake up now and point at the same naked emperor. Yeah.
So how are we feeling? Are we going to have somebody on or what?
I'm good for another half hour anyway.
Aye, cool. I'll go for half an hour. Is there somebody there, Marshall, who's eager to prove the globe or something?
Yeah, I think, Tony wanted to have a say about curvature. So I'll just link him up now.
Right, I'll be back in a wee minute. 2 seconds.
There you go, Tony. Links out to you, dude. Miles, if you're still there, I'm going to ask the panel whether they want to put up with you after just listening to an hour's worth of that nonsense, because I think we can all do with a change of pace, really. So stick in there for a moment. I've got several other mails that aren't related to joining the panel, so I'll be responding to those afterwards for anybody that's mailed me in.
Good man, team. I'm glad you're there behind the scenes.
Well, I'm glad I turned up today too, because I've learned something. That's stumped me completely, man. I for the life of me, I thought fish were probably denser than water, but there we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, Tony, if you are there, do just check your mailbox for the link.
Oh, yeah. So what is it this chap's point is? What's he coming to say?
He wants to discuss the some curvature issue, and he was a little bit ambiguous about which how he was going to approach it. But we talked to him last week, Tony.
All right.
Yeah. And Miles is still hammering on about getting some airtime, but I explained people probably would like a change of pace.
Aye, because I'm fucking bored to tears with that crap.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Pears, has been thoroughly exposed as nothing but a sophist charlatan. Right? It's clear for everybody to see that there is no practical example coming from him.
Absolutely. We do see that on the rise, in the flat earth now, or, the community or whatever we want to call it, that they're bringing out, more and more sophists and even reactivating the old battered fruit. So it just shows you the level of desperation that it's getting to, and the fact that we're winning this.
That's it. They've got nowhere to go. They are running. The pressure is hugely on them. They are running, and this is the crap that they've got. This is the only people they have, and they're a minority. There's only so many people who are committed to being devious and pushing this nonsense, guys like Mr. Pears. That's not the majority of people, So they're running out. As the numbers start to increase more and more, they will start panicking more and more because they don't have the numbers to deal with it.
Absolutely. And I love lovely day it will be when it's exposed to the minds of everybody. Yep. I'm looking forward to that.
That's it. That's what keeps me going every day. That's where my hopes are. Yeah. So, sorry, people were just awaiting a guest.
Tony, if you are there, can you confirm that you've got the link, please? Otherwise, we'll sort of we'll glide on to something else.
Be back in a sec.
Okay, so I'm just getting notifications through here to the 5 Red Pears video, and lo and behold, why do we have Laurie Gale showing up in the comments section of a 5 Red Pears video? Okay, you pointed out all the reasons something as fair as a hangout with you and these people would never happen. It has to be under his control. I would love to be on your panel where that mysterious echo he had when I was on made it impossible for me to talk. I saw he had the same echo the next week, so you know it came from his end. He is obsessed with doing nothing but bitch sessions. No one allowed to have an opinion unless it lines up with his. Nice to see your comments. Just again to clarify for these morons who are obviously showing their true colours and how many, what groups they're actually involved in. This is not about opinions or bitch festing or whatever. You have a serious lack of understanding, missus. You don't have the faculty of understanding to separate what is an opinion, and when this comes to this subject, opinions are not required. There is no two camps, okay? The objective reality is only one, right? So you have people who are in search of that objective truth, and you have people who are hell-bent on deceiving people and lying and hiding what the objective truth is, right? Everybody is welcome here, anybody, right? Rambo-inator replied to that. Laurie Gale, I don't understand why you've come and agreed with a blatant lie. All the live hangout are on the channel sitting there waiting to prove how much of a lie you people are. It's simple. If you do not show respect to others in the hangout, you will be muted or ejected. There have been a few glow believers that came in, showed respect, didn't talk over people, made their point, and it was discussed fairly. You people are blatantly lying. It's sickening. Thank you, Rambo-inator. And it's good to see that people are realising that. As you realise it, you will see these people starting to show their true colours and show the hand, where their loyalties were from the beginning. Because just as Rambo-inator has stated there, people who do come on who want to push the globe or believe in it, when they have manners and respect and can articulate and have a discussion, there's no issue, none. And now they're suggesting that Rambo-inator 44 is one of my minions. Simply go fuck off then. You know what he did to me on there, and I'm not going to revisit it. Go back to your wee little circle jet and play with your little friends in the shed. And then she's saying, hope for truth, you faceless, nameless cartoon people crack me up. Such backbones you have, laughing my ass off. Now go run to your cult leader. This woman is just a fucking absolute piece of shite, is what this woman is. And I knew it from the off. I realised from the off when they wheeled these characters in, and they wheeled them in all together. And as I say, it was like they had a character for all. And that the reason that they've done that is to lure people in to a false sense of security by portraying themselves to be honest, genuine, nice people. And then to slowly but surely start going back on that to cause division and arguments between people. So this divisive little witch has made herself very clear. Rambo-inator 44 is, no minion of mine. He's his own person. I don't have any comms with this person. This is just somebody who sees the game and is stating so, and they don't like it. And as I say, they are all being forced to band together now, because as the numbers grow and the more they are found out, they have to band together because there's very few of them. There's a few of them with many sock accounts to try and give the impression that there's more of them, and there's no. They're laughable, pathetic. So again, it's not about opinions, it's not a cult or any of these things. It's about people discussing and trying to, discover the objective world that we all share. That's purely it. If it was a cult, I'd be saying, oh, we live on a flat earth with a dome, and, we're all God's children, and making, huge, grandiose claims like that. But that doesn't happen here. I'll let you make your own mind up on the
Well
web.
said. This is grown men having reasonable discussions and wanting to know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. They're all over,
And girls, sorry, and ladies too. Sorry.
They're all over there grouping together,
It's great to watch. It's great to watch it unravel. Yeah, absolutely.
Watch them squirm, and you will squirm. Every one of you will squirm. You're directly opposed to the common man's freedoms: freedom to question, freedom to explore, freedom to discover. Right? These people are going to start making it clear who the enemy is. Right? So, what's happening in chat, Marshall?
Not a great deal, dude. Miles is still begging to have his say, and some petty bickering amongst people in there. But other than that, dude, not a great deal today.
Twit, Dale, you are intentionally avoiding my questions. What is your question? Twit. What is your question? Post it. I'm on the comments, the chat box right now. Get it posted. Let Miles on, Globebusters, hello Marshall. Let Miles on, he is hilarious. No, is it Anthony, Tony? Is he showing up? No. Well, let Miles on, let's see what he's got to say, because I'm not going to keep this going all day again. I don't want to burn myself out, because I want to go live tomorrow to give the people their say.
Sorry, Dad, that's the link out to Miles.
Okay.
Or Ken, if that's what he prefers it to be called.
Dale, how has the position of the flat earth been determined to be upright? What flat earth? What are you talking about? Do you even understand that question, Gavin Marshall?
No. There's a lot of rambling going on in here today, mate, by people that obviously are just trying to create a bit of confusion.
I think they just like to throw out nonsense questions and then say, you didn't answer it.
Or just time wasting. One of the two. Right?
Twit, do me a favour. Can you go and check and see if when you go into the bath, plug the hairdryer in and fling it in the bath for yourself, and let me know what happens, would you?
Just shouting again to Miles. Ken. Oh, there you are. Ken, you're here, mate.
Oh, we're here.
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
So, Miles, do you feel as if you were unfairly treated the last time you were here?
Not too badly, but unfortunately, I had to leave very suddenly. I was expecting guests. They turned up early, and so wasn't able to continue the conversation.
Do you understand that, it annoys me and it's infuriating when people continue to talk over the top of each other?
Yeah, same thing annoys me, mate.
Cool, that's fine. There was a lot of people thought you were mistreated and whatever else, but I beg to differ.
Well, it doesn't bother me. I must admit, I did feel I was talked over, and I do feel you have a very aggressive and bullying style. That's the way you are. That's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't detract. I can't help who I am, and it doesn't detract from anything that I'm saying. We're talking through a screen, so I don't know why people would be intimidated by that. I find that really bizarre. I can only apologise if I called you any names in my haste and my frustration, but I'm not going to apologise for why I get frustrated, so.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Cool. So your point, you were going to make some points.
Well, I'm interested in this idea you have that water cannot ever possibly stick to the outside of an object.
Okay.
I don't want you to go off on a rant here, but I'm sure you've seen the video of on the ISS, and whether we believe the ISS is true or not, the video is there, and the example is quite clear of water sticking to the outside of a paper towel that's been wrung by the astronaut there. It also sticks to the outside of his hands. So clearly, under those conditions, water can stick to the outside of an object.
Under those conditions, of course, I conceded that, whatever those conditions are, but it's a misrepresentation, because that's not the conditions that we are living in right at this moment in time. I'm
not claiming it is.
Well,
I'm not saying it was a that I'm using that to represent the Earth. I'm just saying that under certain conditions, water can stick to the outside of an object, and you accept that, yeah?
I've never denied that in the vomit comet and these things that they show you that's what's going on, but whether or not that is actually true or it's computer fuckery, I don't know, because I've not been in that environment. But I dismiss it because it's misrepresenting what the actual claim is. And we're talking about nature, the natural environment. So That's why, my claim is that upon Earth, in our natural environment, bodies of water do not behave like that.
On Earth, do you accept that gravity, or at least that there is some force that pulls objects towards the centre of the Earth?
No.
Or do you deny that exists?
Deny, sorry, what the heliocentric?
There is some force. Most people in the world would call it gravity, but it can be called anything you like. There is some force that pulls objects towards the centre of the Earth.
Sorry, when you go, Gavin.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'm glad, Miles, that you said force is just a word, and I'd like to understand your definition of it. I'm not wanting to get into a discussion too much about definitions and examples. I mean, the force of gravity is described by equations. I find that description perfectly satisfactory. But I know, and everybody listening and watching knows, that if you drop or let go of an object, providing that object has a certain mass, and the forces acting to lift it up are not greater than the forces acting to pull it down, it will fall towards the centre of the Earth. And we know in just common situations that things fall, water flows downhill, and so on. And this is all because, or appears to be because, of some force pulling everything towards the centre of the Earth.
You're starting from the assumption that the Earth is a sphere, and
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
No, not at all. I try not to make any assumptions, and I'm not claiming that the Earth here, I'm not claiming that the Earth is a sphere or spheroid. I personally think that the preponderance of evidence is that it is spheroid. Well, I'm not going to make that claim here. I'm simply asking whether there is a force that pulls things down towards the Earth. And if it's a sphere, then it would be towards the centre of that sphere. If it's not a sphere, then it's difficult to say exactly what the direction would be. It would depend on the shape of the object that the Earth actually is. So
we definitely all observe things falling, right? And I'm glad you clarified the difference between towards the centre of the Earth, because that's where the sphere model comes from. So nobody's denying that we observe things falling.
Right. Okay. But if things move, do we accept that things move because of forces acting upon them?
Sorry, that would again need the definition of what you mean by force. For example, if you look at the equivalence principle, then you'll see that things get equated in physics. Accelerating objects through different mediums is equated with this thing that people want to call gravity. So again, it will depend very much on what you believe, what geometry you're assuming, and what your definitions is.
Well, I think you're trying to overcomplicate things. If I look at an object that's at rest, it won't move unless something, we'll call that thing a force, causes it to move.
Are you talking about on a level plane, or are you talking about things falling?
It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter whether it's. This is you guys are all very.
No, there is a difference. There is a difference, Miles.
No, hang on a second. You're all very keen on this idea of we must be able to see it and observe it ourselves, right? If I'm looking at any stationary object, it doesn't matter whether it's on a plane or not. If I push it or something pushes it, it will move. If some force acts upon it, a gust of wind or something, it may move. It depends whether the force that acts upon it is sufficient to move that object, to overcome the other forces that are acting upon it. What I'm trying to get at is there is something which most people call gravity. It causes things to fall towards the Earth. If the Earth is a sphere and the theory of gravity is correct, then it's pulling things towards the centre. Now, if those things, let's just assume for a moment that the Earth is a sphere. Let's assume that there is this force called gravity, that the equations describing that force are correct. Yeah? Let's assume that the Earth is a spherical planet that is in space. Water on the surface of the Earth would have the force of gravity acting upon it and would be sufficient, just in the same way as the forces on that towel in the video in the ISS are sufficient to keep the water clung to the surface of the towel. In the water on the Earth would be held to the surface of the Earth. It would curve and conform conform to the surface of the Earth. If all those things are correct, now I agree there are assumptions there, but if they're all correct assumptions, then there's nothing to stop the water curving.
So
then you have a mathematical model that works, but you still don't have observable reality, Miles.
Okay, so what we then need to say is, okay, well, we've got the theoretical model, if you like, that if the Earth is a sphere of, however it is 6 times 10 to the 24 kilograms in mass, and is suspended in the vacuum of space, and there's a gravitational force which conforms to the equations that is pulling on that water and holding it to the surface of the Earth. If all those assumptions are true, then we ought to be able to actually observe that. How can we actually observe that? We can observe that by going into space and taking pictures of that object.
But Miles, can I?
Would that be correct? If we could go into space, if we could look at that object, if we could take pictures of that object, it would show us that object is spherical. That would show the water on the surface of that object and show it curving to the surface and sticking to the surface of that object. Yeah.
You would have to prove that that is possible. Can I just go back a wee? I want to understand something. You were talking about this, supposed ISS that's up there flying about in space. You said about the water, conforming to the guy's hands and round the towel. What force was making that happen?
I would imagine that there are a large number of forces making that happen. The force of gravity up there is largely cancelled out by the force of the movement of the space station. So effectively, any gravitational pull towards the Earth would be pretty close to zero. So gravity in that situation is not a force that's important. So there'll be other forces.
What's the force?
With the materials, there's air up there inside the space station, so there'll be a certain amount of air pressure. Effectively, what happens in that situation is that the water, the force that the astronaut is imparting onto the towel, forces the water out of the towel. There's no other force to pull it away from the towel, so it just stays there. Surface tension would be involved, and a number of other things would be involved. But I don't think this is important to the question of the Earth. We got way beyond the fact that water can form a curve, and we've accepted that. Okay, well, there are lots of examples of water being curved. Okay,
raindrops. Water flowing over a waterfall.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's not worry about that. Let's look at the specific situation of the Earth, because this is what we're interested in. So, would you accept that if all those assumptions are true, that if there was a large spherical planet the size that people say the Earth is, and if there was a gravitational force of the magnitude that people say it is, and it was in space, that would be sufficient for the water to stick to the Earth, and that if we went into space and took images, took pictures, took video, took film, whether it be digital or on photographic film or wherever, if we were able to do that, we would see this spherical object in space, we'd see the water sticking to it.
And your mind, your thought experiment. Sorry, Gav, on you go.
Yeah, you were using things like Imagine a minute ago, and I don't think you actually realise you're using them, Miles. But I think you need to get back to the fact that you're arguing a hypothesis against facts, and we're stating facts, and we don't believe the hypothesis we're told. So that's the difference between the two of us.
What I'm doing is I'm trying to get to some facts.
Miles, don't start this again. We've been patient with you, and we're not interrupting you. You asked us not to interrupt when you were speaking, and now you're starting to interrupt when Gav's speaking. So
apologies, but when someone claims I'm saying something that I'm not, then I get a little annoyed. Okay, I'm not claiming anything at all about that. I'm simply saying that if all those things were true, then we ought to be able to go into space and take an image of that object and see that object is actually there.
No, you can't have a discussion. Sorry, do you want continue?
Would you agree with that?
Could you restate the question, please?
If, for the fourth or fifth time, okay, if those things are true, if the Earth is the size that people claim it, if it is spherical, if it is the mass that people claim it is, if gravity is a force of the magnitude that people claim it is, then what we should be able to do is go into space, take images, take pictures, take video of that object, and be able to see that object as a sphere and see the water sticking to the surface of that object, the Earth. Would you agree that that should be possible if all those things are true?
No, not if it contradicts the natural properties of water on Earth, no.
So you're saying if all those things are true, it's not possible to go into space and take a picture of it?
You're making assumptions, Miles.
You're making assumptions and going on thought experiments here.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm asking
Yes, you are.
a question.
You're arguing from a hypothesis against facts. Miles, just again, you're arguing from a hypothesis against known facts. Here, we have fact, and we're refuting hypotheses that do not correspond to those natural facts. And that's the difference between the debating something and discussing something. You know, you have to get back to that. You can't just do that. Do you know what I mean? It's absurd.
Okay, can I go back again then? Okay,
sure.
There are reasons. There are plenty of facts. Okay, for thinking that the Earth is a large and heavy object. Okay, we can see it and stand on it. The question is, what shape is that object? Del has on previous occasions said he doesn't know what shape it actually is. Okay, let's assume we don't know. Let's then create a suggestion that it might be spherical. People have done lots of experiments on gravity, okay, and lots of experiments on the force that pulls at any object towards the center of the Earth. I mean, or towards the Earth. That's known fact. But let's take it as a hypothesis. Why not? If that hypothesis is true, and this is how science works, you create a hypothesis, then you test it. If that hypothesis is true, we should be able to go into space and take a picture of it. That's the test.
Can I say something, Miles? Can I say something that if you make a hypothesis and it can be immediately contradicted by everybody on this world, that it does not, that there's a contradiction there for that hypothesis, will you continue to use that hypothesis?
If the hypothesis can be demonstrated to be false,
like it contradicts that water curves, right?
If test my hypothesis and show it is wrong, it is false, then that obviously must be taken into account, and a new hypothesis must be created. However, I am not prepared to concede yet that anyone has demonstrated the hypothesis that the Earth is spherical or roughly spherical and a large mass of mostly rock and iron and whatever, okay, I don't think anybody's been able to demonstrate that hypothesis is false. The question still remains, if it were true, should we be able to go into space and take pictures of that object and see the water clinging to the surface of the Earth?
I really don't know how to deal with stupidity in this level, to be honest with you. It's so
I think that's rude.
Blindingly brain numbing so I have a hypothesis that fucking unicorns are real. I can come up with a hypothesis about how they came to be, so therefore my pictures prove that it's real. Is this what we're getting towards?
No, we're not getting to that at all, Del. And you're making an assumption that that's what we are getting to. Now,
Try and clarify that point.
I am trying to.
Point actually is.
I'm trying to. If you want to make the claim that unicorns are real, and you take pictures of unicorns and say, look, I think unicorns are real. Here's some evidence that they're real. Okay, here's some pictures of unicorns.
Yeah.
Then it's perfectly reasonable to turn around and say, okay, that's really interesting, Del. I'm interested in these unicorns. I'm interested in these pictures. Well, let's have a look at these pictures and see whether they're pictures of unicorns or pictures of horses that you've stuck a spike to the head of, or whether they're pictures of drawings or models of unicorns. Now, all I'm saying is, if we can go into space, if we can take pictures of the Earth, if those pictures show the Earth is a sphere and that there are oceans covering the surface of that sphere, that is evident that the Earth might in fact be a sphere, and it might have oceans curving and conforming to the surface of it.
And your standards.
The next point is to say, okay, how real, how genuine are those pictures? How much can we trust those pictures? Are there any other lines of evidence that we can look at that support those pictures. And I would contend that the fact that the Earth has been measured and surveyed, that the Arctic Circle, the Tropic of Cancer, the Equator, the Tropic of Capricorn, and the Antarctic Circle, these the lengths of those lines around the Earth are known, and the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle are roughly the same length. The same with the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn are roughly the same length, and the equator lies in the middle. It's only possible to fit those lines onto a regular object that is a sphere or a spheroid. You could do it on two cones stuck together at their base, but that would create a sharp point at the North Pole and the South Pole, and that's something that we don't see in the other evidence that we have, like people who've been to the North Pole and people who've been to the South Pole, and they found they weren't standing on a sharp point. So the likelihood is, again, that the Earth is a sphere. So we have many lines of evidence that point to the Earth being a sphere.
Miles, you've had a long enough to speak. I'm going to say something.
Yep.
You keep saying this, loads and millions, and loads and loads of evidence, and quite frankly, you've produced nothing. You have produced, a thought experiment. If we can get to space, take pictures and let's analyze these pictures or these supposed photographs that come from space. Now, I have seen no actual photographs from space. I have seen.
Do you want me to show you some?
I have seen cartoons. I have seen contradictions in those cartoons. I have watched videos of supposed activity on the ISS that show clear fakery and trickery. So for me, any institution that is trying to pump out an image or a video does not in any way, shape or form constitute as measurable proof of the claims. Okay, so please, Miles, please.
Okay, I thought you'd finished. You paused there.
I'm asking, requesting now that you move on. Again, we're going round in circles again to the last time. Now, before you pissed off the last time, you left. Okay.
Hang on a minute. Can we not be rude to each other, please?
Can you let me finish? Before you left the last time, pissed off's just a term here. It's no anything derogatory.
I live in Scotland. I know what it means.
Well, don't try and portray it as an insult, because it's not an insult. Explain how you pissed off is an insult.
Pissed off is not leaving. Pissed off is it means something else. Okay.
You're stuttering. I pissed off. I left. He pissed off.
Okay. Let's not go down this cul-de-sac. All right. Let's get back to the subject.
Don't make statements and claims that are not true. There. All right. So before you left the last time, I tried to establish with you, how claims work and how my mind works and how I assess reality. So I look at these institutions, these so-called space travellers, who are trying to tell me that I live in a pressurised system and that they are achieving flights to beyond our pressurised system into the vacuum of space. Now, they tell me that happens through layers of gases getting gradually thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner until we get to this vacuum of space. Now, for me, that is totally contradictory to every single tradesman, every single layman who has applied physics and used it in everyday life. That claim alone is an absolute absurdity and goes against every observable, testable fact of reality. So if I know that, then I can then deduce from that these people must be telling me a lie. Therefore, they are not going to where they say they are going, and if they are, it's something different from what they are claiming it is. So therefore, I do not trust anything that they have to offer me, because the contradictions in all of their claims are absurd.
Okay, are you finished? Can I comment on this vacuum of space thing? Because you called it a pressurized system.
Excuse me, I need to go to the toilet. Sorry, Miles. Gav, Marshall, you can.
Yeah, bye.
I'll listen to you, Miles.
The
pressurized system, dude. You were saying.
I'm listening, Miles.
Mm-hmm.
I'll prompt you, Miles. The pressurized system, dude, is where you left off.
Yeah. What will you want me to carry on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The thing is, I was trying to respond to Del, and he's not there.
You can also wait.
Any test that you want to do here on the surface of the Earth, where you take a vacuum, you take some object and some container, and you remove most of the air from inside of it, and then make a hole or open a valve or whatever, yeah, of course, air is going to rush into that vacuum. It is entirely different to the air on the atmosphere of the Earth, staying bound to the atmosphere of the Earth and not flying off into space. Space doesn't suck, is the basic bottom line. It is simply an absence of matter. It is not a vacuum sucking, because on Earth, on the surface of the Earth, the vacuum doesn't suck. It's the pressure of the air on the outside pushing in. So the air pressure on the Earth pushes down towards the Earth, largely due to gravity. So it doesn't push into space.
Is gravity pulling or is it pushing the atmosphere down?
The atmosphere, it doesn't matter, push or pull, doesn't matter. The atmosphere is getting drawn towards the center of the Earth, according to the spheroid Earth model.
Would you agree that there is no pressure in space, whatever the claim it is?
I'd say that yes, there is no pressure. That's right. Okay,
so that's zero pressure system, right?
Yeah.
So on here, on Earth, yet again, you remember we've all agreed on principles here and stuff that water is level, and we're basing things on observable, testable, repeatable reality. And you're wandering off into thought experiments in places that you've never been. So I
didn't wander into a thought experiment. Can I correct that? Okay, I didn't correct that. I didn't state that at all. I want to correct that. It was not a thought experiment. It was not a thought experiment. It was an actual experiment. Okay, the actual experiment is going into space and taking pictures of the Earth.
Did you do that? Is that you? Or are you claiming that you believe in the institution?
I haven't done the experiment. I haven't done the experiment, but there are lots of experiments you haven't done that you accept the result of.
I'll tell you some experiments that I've done, right? I've tested water.
I don't care about the ones you've done. What about the ones you haven't done?
Tested water till I'm blue in the face. I have tested, now you've just conceded that there is zero pressure in your space, whatever you want to call it. Now here on Earth, when we have a zero pressure system and a pressurized system, we require a solid separation between those two systems. If we do not have separation between those two systems, the two systems will equilibrate.
And that is completely unlike the situation of the Earth and space. It is completely unlike the situation of Earth and space.
Miles, you're arguing again from a hypothesis against known facts. You're arguing with a hypothesis.
Listen.
Oh, you listen.
Have an object.
We're doing this again, Miles. We're doing this again. We're just going to start talking over the top of each other, and it's starting to already get me animated and pissed off because you're just going round and round in circles. Right?
Can I answer now? Can I answer?
No, Miles. Not until we get through, each point. If you can't just stick to each point, you keep moving the goalposts.
I'm going to stick to the point.
See you later, Miles. That's enough before I start calling you names. Wow.
It's the same problem all the time. When people get to discuss together, they need to agree on principles of discussion before they start, right? And one of the things that you can't do is want something that the other person denies. I mean, you can't even start a discussion if that goes on. Now, I deny space because it contradicts every natural observation I make, especially the properties of natural water, right? So, there's no point in coming with a hypothesis arguing against facts. All we can do is look at the objective facts and then start from there. But anything that contradicts those, there's no point in even having a discussion.
No, I mean...
It doesn't match reality.
I mean, you want to shift the goalposts, if they concede that there is zero pressure in their vacuum of fucking space and that we live in a pressurised system, right? Now, we know 100% of the time that in order for those two systems to exist side by side, there has to be a solid barrier between them. I mean, what is it that's hard about that for people to understand when it is experienced by them every single day of their life? I mean, be honest, Marshall. I mean, am I wrong here? I mean, what the fuck? I mean,
no, you're not wrong. You're absolutely correct. You cannot argue from hypothesis against fact. All you can do is take the facts as they are, and then you can work an hypothesis. If you have a hypothesis that contradicts known facts that everybody can test and measure for themselves, then there's not even any point in continuing with the hypothesis. It needs to be revisited.
Yep.
So I don't understand where they come from. They wander off in their little world of theory and hypothesis and models, and I mean, he's even saying it himself. He's saying I'm if and imagine and he doesn't even realise that he's saying it. I don't think that these words are part of his vocabulary. They're so ingrained into his psyche.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's very difficult to know whether that's the case or whether he's just deliberately wasting our time. But
it seems to me to be deliberate, to be honest with you. And again, you're right in the word, the terminology. If. Well, no if. Prove the premise first.
Absolutely.
Then move on stage at a time. But you just want to run down the road and ignore all the other premises that you've just taken as for granted as being true, and arguing insignificant points and thought experiments. I mean,
yep, you can't do that if it contradicts the facts. It's just not natural science.
No. So I'm sure it will be portrayed as some injustice towards Miles or whatever, but
he was doing circular reasoning, so it wasn't going anywhere. So
no, he's shifting the goalposts. I'm asking a simple question: is he claiming that there's zero pressure in fucking space? Yes. Is he claiming that we live in a pressurized system? Yes. How does negative pressure and positive pressure interact with each other when there is no solid separation between the two?
Only in the minds of definitions of physicists, because they can have solar wind, pushing their solar ships from one planet to another because of this very small particles that are still left in space. Then they can ride the photons to Mars. Yeah, what can I say? I used to believe it.
Yeah, and so did I. And that's the problem. They talk to us as if we forget or we never believed that in the first place.
Yep. It makes me cringe and embarrassment now, and it makes me embarrassed for the people who still think it. But the common sense will win them over. Because, as I say, you can't deny the observable facts of reality, because if you do that, then how do you get dressed in the fucking morning, How do you cross the road without getting run down, So if you start to deny that, you're just into the realms of preposterous and, absurdities, and it's just, they need to wake up to it, Yeah,
but that's the little pie that they're trying to protect, and why they wheel these characters out, because the space institutions and the money that it garners, and then all the other branches that break off from that, the money that's accumulated and the power and the control that comes for that, that's what they're desperate to keep a hold of, They can't battle with common sense, Fair enough, you could pass it off your images in your video, as being true and being real and have people duped. But see, as soon as you start finding flaws and realise that this is no actual video and no actual photographs, and then I find contradictions and barefaced lies, then I'm not interested. I will then get back to my common senses and what I observe and test in the real world for myself, and that's exactly what people here have done. We lost faith. We lost our faith in the religious institution, right? Because we questioned it. The same reason that other people lose their faith is when they question that faith and the blind belief that they had, when they actually sift through it and question it to see if it's validity, and you find that it doesn't have any validity. It's crap. So I do not have faith the same as other people do in these space institutions. That's up to them, right? For me, images and their videos will never trump natural observations, ever.
Yep, well said, Matt. That's as good as I could bring it to point as well. Yep. You can't argue against the fact.
Nope. And again, Miles and guys like him come in with the attitude that he's already, he's on one side and we're on another side, and that's not the case. So somebody has got a serious misunderstanding of what's happening, and it's Miles, because Miles is coming with a confirmation bias, and he's trying everything, to try and, cling on to that belief, that faith. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's defending positions and arguments, and, but the observable reality is not about debating. Yep. And they try it all the time, to bring in this kind of division. And I know we've talked about this so often, but I think it's important just to repeat that, there is no debate about natural science. There is no debate about common sense. We can discuss it. We can try and understand it better. We can do all those things, but, you can't debate it. It's what it is, and we all see it. We all touch it. We all observe it. So, let's start from that as the basis of all our knowledge, right? But as soon as you try and deny that as the basis of all your knowledge and go off into a hypothesis, then, it's just preposterous. You're arguing against, known facts.
That's it.
I don't know why they even bother going further than that, unless they're just trying to confound, confuse, and bewilder people, Yeah. So
say the latter, they have insecurities and they want to hold on to their faith or their belief, and it's scary for them.
No, it's definitely scary for people. It's their job, it's their whatever, their belief, it's their funding, as you say, all these different things. But people are just going to have to get over that and realise it. Anybody out there who's half on the fence and is worried about the future. You know, I don't think they should be. You know, the future can only get fucking brighter. Yeah, there's can't be anything worse than this lies that they're telling us and this deception. So don't be scared to come out, because any change is going to be a good one.
Exactly. So, what is anybody saying in the chat? Who's anybody going to say, Marshall? No?
I think they're all trying to give Miles an education, to be honest with you, because I mean everybody's in agreement that he obviously doesn't really understand what he's saying. Aside from that, dude, you know, I think perhaps it's time for Miles to sort of like take the hint, not from the panel maybe, but from the many people that are in chat trying to explain to him where he's going wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Good guys. Thanks for doing that. All you guys out there who are, you know, seeing the sense, and let's just keep it going. Let's persuade all of these people, or, you know, give them the information they need to come to that realization themselves. Yeah, they can't stop it because they've all got common sense. Yeah. As I say, they can't deny that. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And speaking of time, I'll need to dive off, Dale. Sorry, my man.
That's all right. I'm going to call it a day shortly as well. So cheers for coming on, man.
Yep. Thanks, Marshall. See you, everybody.
See you later, man.
Bye.
So, Goldbusters, Miles Davis, differential pressures equalise, end of story. You cannot have an atmosphere next to a vacuum without equalising. Exactly, it's as simple as that.
I noticed Tony's just managed to pick up the link, though.
Well, I'm just going to end, Tony. I'm really tired now and I've got stuff I need to do, man. So, we've let the link out earlier. But it's here, Tony.
Yeah, I'm here, man. I was just going to show it to you and see what you think. It'll take you about 3 minutes to watch it.
Right, on you go, man.
2 minutes, I promise you.
What is this? Is this your video, or is it something you got for somebody, or what? What am I looking at?
Nah, you know, I've got a bit of a Blackpool Tower thing going on.
Oh, right.
Somebody's popped up with proof of curvature against the Blackpool Tower theory, and I just wanted to run it by you so you could see it, and maybe we could, I don't know, discuss it on your next hangout rather than dropping it on you at the last second without having any forewarning for it. I don't expect you to do it straight away, but it is worth considering. It appears to be pretty good.
Well, we could have a discussion about it and maybe arrange a specific topic for through the week next week. But Saturdays I like to keep just purely for, you know, the people. So
sure. Can I share my screen? Yeah.
Carry on.
Okay. Can you see?
Can see me.
Can you see me now?
Yep.
Okay. Basically, this guy's observing a particular tower near him, and essentially he doesn't do any speech on it, so you have to leave it open to what you see. But he's looking at this thing down in Malmo, and he's looking at it at different points up the coast at a variety of distances. And essentially, cutting a long story short, so you don't have to see it, he kind of shows what he sees from the first point, then he goes to the second point, and it goes on, and he gets to the end, and he ends up over here somewhere. And each time he shows his GPS position, and he concludes this first part by getting to the final one, which is over here on the right somewhere, and he lines everything up with the horizon. So his common platform would be the horizon itself, and obviously the building starts off tall, and it gradually shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, and it seems to suggest that it's dropping behind the curve. However, he then finishes off with one at elevation, which would be... Shit, I accidentally clicked that link. I'll have to find where it's gone. Bear with me. There we go. His final one is one at elevation, and he shows what happens when he sees the one that's furthest away at elevation, and it suggests that it's dropping behind the curve of the Earth. So the question is, what is this evidence of? Is it evidence of curvature of the Earth, or is it evidence of something else? I think I can't click it because the progress bar falls behind these notifications. Yeah, that was it. So essentially, that's all it is. But it's a really good one because it does seem to do a clear, concise, no bullshit attack on the idea that the Earth's a ball. On the idea that the Earth's a plane. I've just lost it. I'll have to go back to it. But essentially, it's a really good video. It's worth discussing because it seems to be credible, and it does seem to suggest that water may curve. Whether it does or not is the issue, but the evidence seems to be clear. There we go. Get back to that. So essentially, he's looking at this is the final one he does at elevation. I don't know what the elevation is, but he compares it to the final one, and it appears to show that it's curved water, maybe.
But he's not giving you the height and stuff for the last one. There's loads of issues I'm seeing there. Some of the videos you were showing, things were disappearing totally. But again, you know, I think we've got understanding today on natural perspective and, you know, compression images that are off in the distance and stuff. So I think there's a lot to be looked at, but I can guarantee you that water is not curved.
No, I'm not. I'm only suggesting this is what has been suggested to me that is really happening with my tower observation. And I'm not saying it's it's one or the other. I'm just saying it's been presented to me and it looks credible, and I was just wanted you to see it so you could have a think about it over the next couple of days.
There's loads of credible, videos out there. David Ray's one who does a lot of these across long distance viewing and discusses it. So maybe somebody like him would be better to take a look at whatever's going on here. But I know that water is flat and level. Maybe some motion going on in it. One of the other problems I would see there with that is that there is the building appears to always be vertical, straight up and down. And this is another thought that I had. If we can see, if they claim that buildings are 90 degrees towards the centre of the earth, then cities that are, say 30, 40 miles long that we can have a full view of, you would think there would be some sort of fanning happening, because according to them, the buildings all have to be 90 degrees, and that 90 degrees is not really level. It's just 90 degrees straight towards the centre of the earth, of the sphere.
Yeah.
So, but we don't ever see any of that stuff. So again, for me, it's something straight in front of us. It comes under the investigation of natural perspective, how our eyes work, how things compress and vanish into the distance and get smaller. There's loads of things to come of that. For me, it's just the same as seeing any other video, and there's not really anything that's going to be answered there by looking at that. But
well, I think if we can reconvene it maybe in a week's time when I've had a chance to think about it and look into it, because for me it is seems to be quite credible.
Well, Anthony, you're your man on your own journey, so why don't you go and have a look into it and see what you produce and come and show us your claims or make a video or whatever? I don't know.
Well, I've done the Blackpool Tower observation. It was inconsistent with that, so it conflicts with my own observations. So I'm just looking for reasons for why it might be not the case with them, with me, as it is with him.
That's it. They're inconclusive, isn't it? As I say, there's so much to take into account: atmospheric conditions, how our eyes work, how perspective works, how things compress and get smaller and wider as they go further away from us. There's loads of these things to look at. But as I say, if you're getting two conflicting ones, which we can all go and achieve, it brings us back to the same thing again. Are we trusting these images and footage and using them as some sort of proof of something? Because it's not anything that's really measurable, is it? Especially when they're conflicting with each other.
I just wanted to leave it with you, and I hopefully reconvene at some point and see what we come up with. But keep up with the good work, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Take it easy, man.
Bye-bye.
See you later. So, Marshall, anybody else got anything to say? No?
No, dude. And I've told everybody that really we were looking to wrap up for the day because it was meant to be for Mr. Pears. I'm assuming we can tell everybody we're back tomorrow. So anybody?
Yeah, back tomorrow. For the people, we'll be opening up to everybody to have their say. Just send a message to nocurve@gmx.com. You're welcome to come in and let us know your story. Anything you've got to say at all, you're more than welcome. We'll not be accepting the usual sophists and trolls, taking up everybody's time and selecting their moments to come in and try and sway people with nonsense. I see their games. So, cheers, Marshall. Cheers, everybody else who came on today. Gav, Magumba in chat. Cheers, Jonah Worms, if you're there. Thanks again, people. Appreciate you showing up. Unfortunately, Mr. Pears never appeared. Look out for the nonsensical hit pieces coming probably from him and his cronies. Should be a laugh, if nothing else. But really, they've been called, offered nothing. So now I'm just going to ignore them. They're irrelevant. Mr. Pears is irrelevant now. He's had his opportunity, and he offers nothing but drawings and waffle. Any of these people who are trying to make proof of their claims, we need practical examples. All right, peace.